Chapter 411. Bai Qiuxue did enter this world by accident. Some time ago, she was injured by some powerful green dwarfs. She chased after them in anger and went into the swamp. As a result, she triggered the inhibition formation and entered this world. Anyone could see the wonders of this world. There were mystical fruits and mystical materials everywhere. Bai Qiuxue, of course, didn't go back. She planned to explore this place and report to the Bai family. If the Bai family could get this small world, they would be able to develop quickly. But soon, she was discovered by the yellow goblins, and they chased after her. Luckily, the yellow goblins she met at the beginning were average warriors. There were no powerful warriors that could go invisible. Even so, Bai Qiuxue was miserable. She was chased all the way and had no time to rest, not even 2 hours of sleep. In the end, she ran to the territory of the hag race and passed out. Then, she was captured by the hag race. Luckily, she ran to the hag race and not some other race. Otherwise, she would have been defiled. Hag race respected women, and all men were slaves. Women were not interested in other women. Several warriors of the hag race were about to kill Bai Qiuxue when a flying hag happened to pass by. Women were not interested in other women. But there was an exception, the queen of the hag race. As a queen, she could have all kinds of men. She would like to have a change of taste after playing around. Many big shots at the northern desert were interested in men. This flying hag sent Bai Qiuxue to the queen. The queen was delighted and wanted to take Bai Qiuxue as a concubine. Bai Qiuxue was not willing. She threatened the queen with death. The queen didn't want to torture Bai Qiuxue, so she locked her in a secret cave. There were many obscene carvings on the walls of the secret cave. They were all about men and women having sex. At first, Bai Qiuxue's eyes turned red. But as she saw more, she became less reserved. Young boys and girls were curious about these things. Also, there were carvings on the walls of the cave. She had to look at them. After several days, Bai Qiuxue suddenly had a strange feeling. There seemed to be some kind of Tao in the carvings. She tried to feel it and learned a secret skill called enchantment. Bai Qiuxue explained to Lu Li in a low voice with a blush on her face. Even though she was too embarrassed to say many things, she could only mumble some vague words, but Lu Li understood. No wonder autumn snow looked so different from before. Just by looking at her, he could feel his heart palpitating with excitement. The hazy feelings in his heart had finally erupted today. Seemed like this had something to do with this heaven's enchantment. He smiled and looked at the Yiksha queen. That's right. Autumn Snow has comprehended your secret skill. You said she's your god now. Does that mean you will listen to her from now on? That's right. She's your god. The eyes of Yiksha and the others lit up. They had been ready to give up on the Yiksha tribe, but there was still a reversal. Lu Li looked at Yiksha, who translated Lu Li's words in the ancient language. The queen blushed. She looked at Bai Qiuxue with passion and said a lot of things in her language. Lu Li was about to ask Yiksha what she was talking about when Bai Qiuxue suddenly said, I can understand her. She said that as long as I can use the skill, I will be the god of the hag race. None of the hag race can disobey my orders. Okay, Lu Li was excited. He said, then do it now. This race is very useful to me. Make them surrender to you. Wait. Lu Li suddenly remembered something. He pulled Bai Qiuxue aside and said in a low voice, will you be naked like them when you use the enchantment? When the Yiksha queen and that powerful warrior used the skill, the black armor would disappear and they would be naked. Bai Qiuxue was Lu Li's girl now. Naturally, he didn't want her to be seen naked. What are you talking about? Bai Qiuxue was both angry and ashamed. She glared at Lu Li. Then, the cinnabar mark between her eyebrows suddenly lit up. She was enveloped in a faint golden glow. At that moment, Bai Qiuxue seemed to have transformed into a Buddha bathed in the holy light. She was sacred and solemn. Nobody dared to look at her directly. Yet, nobody could take their eyes off her. Everyone was mesmerized. They were all obsessed, as if they were looking at the most beautiful woman in the world. Bai Qiuxue was breathtakingly beautiful, so beautiful that they lost their souls. The entire world had disappeared, and they could only see Bai Qiuxue. Not only Lu Li and the other young men, but also the Yiksha queen patriarchs and many low-level yakshas were in the same situation. They felt their souls were being taken away, and they had become idiots. What was more amazing was nobody had any evil thoughts, no lustful thoughts, and no one dared to have any blasphemous thoughts. It was as if Bai Qiushue had become a goddess above the heavens. They could only look up to her and worship her. They could not have any evil thoughts. It was a strange feeling, but it was real. Even Zi Huanxiao, who was at the peak of the noble lord realm, had his soul taken away. If Bai Qiushue were to make a move now, Zi Huanxiao wouldn't even be able to fight back. He would have to accept his death. Buzzing, the cinnabar mark between Bai Qiushue's eyebrows glowed. The faint golden glow around her disappeared. Everyone came back to their senses. Zi Huanxiao, Yu Huashun, Qi Tianfan, and the others looked at each other. Cold sweat ran down their foreheads and backs. The enchantment was horrifying. Luckily, it was Bai Qiushue who had learned it. If it were the Yiksha queen, everyone would have died without even knowing how. Plop! The Yiksha queen got rid of the Cyan Phoenix race patriarch's hand and flew down. She led the other Yikshas to kneel down. They put one hand on their chest and cowed out. They all shouted, Chi, Chi, Chi. Luli looked at Yicha and asked, "What is Chi?" "It is God, the god in the ancient language." Yicha looked at Bai Qiushue with mixed feelings. He nodded and said, "Lady Qiushu, you are so talented. You have learned the mysterious skill of the gods. Many races know about enchantment. Low-level ones rely on the body, middle-level ones rely on the soul, and I think the enchantment of the best must be the enchantment. Men, women, young and old can all be killed. What's more, she can make people feel like she is a god. Naturally, they will be charmed by her and follow her orders. I think when the enchantment is cultivated to the extreme, it can make people willing to die." Lu Li and the others were moved. This was not a mysterious skill. It was more horrifying than a powerful, profound meaning. Bai Qiushue was only at the initial stage of the Fate Wheel realm, but she could charm warriors at the peak of the Noble Lord realm. If she could cultivate the enchantment to the extreme, she could be as powerful as an army of 10 million. Think about it. An army of 10 million came, and Bai Qiushue went to fight them all by herself. She didn't have to do anything. All she had to do was smile, and the army of 10 million would turn against her. The mysterious skill of the gods has the word God in it. Sure enough, anything related to gods is incredible. Chapter 412. Lu Li and the others could tell without the queen's confirmation that Bai Qiushue had learned the mysterious skill of the hag race. For the hag race, this skill was supreme, as could be seen from the kneeling hag race civilians. As a matter of fact, anyone that could learn the enchantment would be the god of the hag race and would have supreme authority. To the hag race, those that could learn the enchantment were no different from gods. The hag race was an ancient race that had been around for tens of millions of years, even longer than the Cyan Phoenix race. Throughout history, only 3 people could learn the enchantment. One of them was the ancestor god of the hag race, another was one of the ancestor gods of the hag race, and the last one was a human lady. Therefore, when Autumn Snow was able to comprehend the enchantment, the Yikshas did not hesitate at all. They immediately worshipped Autumn Snow as their Yiksha god. Luli got the answer after the conversation between Bai Qiushue and the queen. He was excited to see a glimmer of hope. He was about to give up on the hag race, but Bai Qiushue could convince them. Retreat. Without much hesitation, Lu Li was ready to leave. Of course, he wouldn't just leave like that. He asked Bai Qiushue to order the hag race to conquer the territory of the yellow goblin race. He wanted to control the passageway to the world of green dwarfs. The queen didn't hesitate. Among the 18 races in the world, the yellow goblin race was one of the weaker ones. Lu Li could even destroy the yellow goblin race, let alone conquer a territory. At the queen's order, the hag race started to move. She mobilized hundreds of thousands of warriors and charged toward the territory of the yellow goblin race. The queen was injured. One of her breasts was crushed by Lu Li, but it was just a superficial wound that wouldn't kill her. It would just affect her appearance. The queen went with the army to conquer the mountain in person. For her, By Chioshua's order was like a god's will. She didn't dare to disobey. Lu Li and the others observed along the way. They were relieved to make sure that the queen didn't do anything. As a matter of fact, Lu Li was not afraid. Bai Qiushue could suppress them with her enchantment, and he was not afraid of soul attacks. If she dared to do anything, Lu Li would have to kill her. The army marched slowly. Along the way, Lu Li asked Bai Qiushue and the queen of the Hag race to ask about the situation here. The Ixia queen answered whatever Autumn Snow asked without hesitation. In just half a day, Autumn Snow had already figured out the entire situation here. This large world was called the Deserted World by the 18 races. The 18 races had not always been in there. Instead, they escaped here 200,000 years ago. In the past, they were one of the most illustrious great clans in the Central Plains. In ancient times, pure-blooded humans were actually very weak. At that time, tens of thousands of races ran amok, each with their own divine abilities, and dominated the entire world. The human race could only hide in a corner and struggle at death's door. Later on, there were 3 great wars of the 10,000 races. The various races fought each other, and the entire world was covered in blood. Many powerful warriors of the races were killed, and the human race became weaker. In the end, they had to leave their homelands and hide in small worlds to avoid extinction. During the 3 great wars of the 10,000 races, the human race, which used to be the weakest, developed quietly. Many chosen warriors of the human race became powerful warriors and learned profound meanings. They could compete with family masters of the major races. 200,000 years ago, the 3rd Great War of the 10,000 races broke out. The human race rose up completely and exterminated many races. The human race occupied the most prosperous land in the world, seized the resources of many races, and became the dominator of the world. It was at that time that the 18 races were driven out of the Central Plains and hid in the deserted world. In order to avoid being hunted down by the human race, they had sealed off the passages to the outside world when they came in. When they first came in, there were 70 or 80 races in the deserted world. Later on, in order to fight for resources, dozens of races were wiped out. Now, there were only 5 powerful races in the deserted world. The other races didn't have many powerful warriors. As time went by, more passages connecting the deserted world to the outside world appeared. 6 of them had been discovered. There was even one that was connected to the Central Plains. But that passage was sealed off immediately. The major races went out to explore and found that the Central Plains was still occupied by powerful warriors of the human race. Nobody dared to go out. The most powerful ones, the Titan race and the Stellar race, had given out orders that if anyone dared to go out and offended the super powerful warriors of the Central Plains, they would exterminate the entire race. Therefore, after the Yellow Goblin race discovered the passage, they didn't send out an army. They only sent some scouts to the world of green dwarfs to investigate. Faster, Lu Li told the queen of the Hag race to speed up when he heard the news. If the Yellow Goblin race destroyed the passage, they would have to stay here for the rest of their lives. We must conquer this world. Lu Li made up his mind, not only because there were many strange mystical materials in this world, but also because there were many powerful races. If he could bring all the races under his control, his force would grow by leaps and bounds. There were many mystical materials here, but there were rare ones, just like the small world of the Cyan Phoenix race. If he could bring the races under his control and buy mystical materials for them to make breakthroughs one by one, he would have more powerful warriors working for him. It was even possible that after several decades, he would have many human sovereign realm warriors working for him. By then, he could build a new Lu family at the northern desert that could compete with the Lu family at the Central Plains. The Lu family would be as powerful as the Lu family at the Central Plains and could become the 13th royal family. Of course, this was Lu Li's ideal situation. No one knew how things would develop after that. Maybe the Mammoth race could not command the Titan race. In that case, Lu Li would be daydreaming. Or if the news got out and the major families of the Central Plains got involved, not only would he gain nothing, but he might be beheaded. Anything could happen. Lu Li had to be careful. One wrong move, and he would fall off the cliff, never to rise again. What he had to do now was to conquer the exit and return to the northern desert safely. After several days of traveling, Luli finally arrived at the mountain where the exit was. This was the territory of the yellow goblin race. Many caves were inhabited by yellow goblins. The queen of the hag race ordered the army to attack without any hesitation. She told the yellow goblins that from now on, this area belonged to the hag race. The hag race's support was the Titan race, and the yellow goblin race's support was the stellar race. The feud between the two races was deep. This time, the yellow goblin race mobilized their army, ready to fight to the death. Fight my ****. Chapter 4:13. After Bai Qiushue gave the order, the queen sent the patriarch to the area with more than 100 flying hags and 10,000 warriors. Lu Li and the others didn't join in. Once they were involved, things would be different. The major races of the deserted world would pay attention to the fact that the hag race and the humans were attacking the yellow goblin race. The stellar race would probably send powerful warriors over immediately. Luckily, the hag race was much stronger than the yellow goblin race. Apart from the fact that the yellow goblin race could go underground and hide, they didn't have many powerful abilities. What was more, there weren't many yellow goblins that could hide. The average ones could be killed easily. The elites of the hag race came out in full force. The situation was one-sided. The queen of the hag race charmed a large group of yellow goblin race warriors in person. Then, skulls flew out and slaughtered the yellow goblin race warriors. The warriors moved forward. One day later, the patriarch of the hag race sent a report. They had occupied the area near the exit and protected the tunnel. The tunnel was not destroyed. The yellow goblin race actually wanted to use the tunnel to get out to the outside world and loot some resources. The yellow goblin race had the smallest territory in the deserted world, and they had too few resources. Luli was reassured. The situation was going in the right direction. Anyways, it would be a great victory if they could get out. At least, they could save Bai Qiushue, and she had acquired a skill. Get ready. Luli couldn't wait any longer. He decided to get out first and leave the rest to the queen. He told Autumn Snow to look for the Yiksha queen and ask her to find a way to occupy this territory for a long time. She had to ensure that the passage would not be taken by the other tribes. Also, she had to keep the news to herself. Bai Qiushue and the queen talked for a while. She promised that she would accomplish her mission without any unnecessary words. But the queen was reluctant to let Bai Qiushue go. She hoped that Bai Qiushue could stay with the hag race, saying that the hag race would provide all the resources to help Bai Qiushue improve her realm. Of course, Bai Qiushue said no, but she didn't make up her mind. She said that she would be back soon and that she would lead the hag race to dominate the deserted world. The queen was overjoyed. She thanked Bai Qiushue profusely and shed tears of gratitude. Bai Qiushue had achieved her goal. She rushed to the exit with Lu Li and the others. When they arrived, the area was occupied by patriarchs of the hag race. Luli was still worried, so he asked Bai Qiushue to warn the patriarchs of the race again. Go! Luli took the lead and dashed into the swamp. The teleportation inhibition formation was still there. They walked out one by one. After a white glare, they finally arrived at the small world of the green dwarfs. Done. When they arrived at the world of green dwarfs, Luli and Yicha looked at each other in relief. Bai Lung and the others were still guarding outside. There were over 1,000 warriors of the Fate Wheel realm here. Alas, when Bai Lung saw Bai Qiushue, his eyes lit up and he cried out in excitement. Bai Qiushue's eyes were also red. Although she was covered in mud, she couldn't care less. She rushed over and knelt down on one knee, choking with sobs. Qiushue is too insensible. I've let Uncle Lung worry. Get up, get up. It's good that you came back safely. Bai Lung had a gratified look on his face. Autumn Snow was the hope of the Bai clan. He had always treated this niece of his as his own daughter. Yu Huashan. Luli left Bai Qiushue alone. He walked to Yu Huashan and said in a deep voice, "Go and gather some skilled craftsmen and materials. I want to build a formation here to seal off the teleportation inhibition formation. Nobody can get out. Ah, Yu Huashan was surprised. The others looked at Lu Li in confusion as well. Lu Li waved his hand and asked Bai Long to take all the warriors of the Fate Wheel Realm and Eternal Realm to step back. Then he explained, the deserted world, and there is not only the Yellow Goblin race and the Hag race. There are many other horrifying races. There are at least more than a dozen warriors of the human sovereign realm. If they can get out, the northern desert will be doomed. What? Everyone's expressions changed. Lu Li's words had successfully stunned them. Yicha understood what Lu Li meant. He nodded and said, that's right. We cannot let the races in there out. Otherwise, the northern desert will be plunged into misery and suffering. Zi Huanxiao frowned. He asked in confusion, if there are such horrifying races and powerful warriors in there, why don't we destroy the teleportation tunnel? Wouldn't destroying the tunnel solve everything once and for all? Why would Lu Li spend so much manpower and materials to seal this place? Of course, Lu Li could not tell them the real reason. He explained after a pause, the Hag race has occupied the exit over there, so it is safe for now. We can build a sealing formation here. In case a large number of alien races invade, we can just destroy the tunnel connecting the world of green dwarfs and the northern desert. As you can see, there are many mystical materials in that world. In the future, we can sneak in and get some. That's right. Everyone's eyes glowed. They had seen the mystical materials in that world. They were everywhere. They could not go in and grab them now, but there would be chances in the future. Guys, Lu Li said solemnly, apart from the few of us, nobody else can know about the small world. Not even your wives and children. There is more than one tunnel in that world. It is said that there is another one connected to the Central Plains. It is even possible that this world is the territory of a super family of the Central Plains. Once the information gets out and the Central Plains learns about it, you can imagine the consequences. Yes. Everyone nodded. Nobody dared to be careless. Lu Li and all of them shared the same interest on this matter. Once the information got out, the big families of the Central Plains would get involved. All the families would be wiped out. Okay, let's stay here for a while. When the formation is finished, we can all go out. Lu Li said. Yu Huashan left with the others. It was easy to build a formation. All the big families of the northern desert had the talents and materials. Bai Qiushua asked Bai Long to send a message to Madame Yan. She didn't go out right away. She was touched to hear that Lu Li killed all the green dwarfs in the small world just to find her. She didn't want to leave. They settled down near the mud puddle. There happened to be a river nearby. They camped near the river, cleaned up, and sent someone to catch some beasts for a feast. By the river, Lu Li and Bai Qiushua were standing by the river. Bai Qiushua had come to Lu Li of her own accord. However, when Lu Li brought her to the river, she said nothing. She just stared at the river, lost in thought. Lu Li was at peace now that he was out of danger and his people were saved. The scenery was picturesque, and he was in a good mood. He turned around, looked at Bai Qiushua's pretty face, and asked, Qiushua, what are you thinking about? Bai Qiushua worked up her courage, looked up at Lu Li, and said, Lu Li, I learned the secret skill of the Hag race. It is a dirty one. You won't turn your back on me, will you? Lu Li burst into laughter. So this was what this girl was worried about. She felt she was not as pure as before after learning the secret skill of the alien races. Therefore, she was worried. Lu Li grabbed Bai Qiushua's soft hands and said, Qiushua, I have unified the northern desert and built the empire of godly prowess. Now, the empire is in need of queen. Are you willing to condescend? Bai Qiushua blushed. She got rid of Lu Li's hands and said with embarrassment, I am asking you something. Why are you talking about this? Ha ha ha. Lu Li laughed and teased. I won't turn my back on you even if you become a Hag race, let alone a secret skill. Of course, from now on, your dirty skills can only be used on me. You pervert. Chapter 414. Yu Huashan came back in 10 days. He mobilized many skilled craftsmen to dig out the quagmire and build a formation outside the teleportation inhibition formation. Once alien races were teleported over, They would be trapped by the formation, and those guarding the formation would be informed immediately. Luli was still worried, so he asked them to build another formation outside. With 2 layers, there would be enough time for warnings even if human sovereign realm warriors from the deserted world were to come over. As soon as the warning was given, the powerful warriors guarding the exit of the small world of green dwarfs would destroy the tunnel. They might not have the chance to enter the deserted world in the future, but at least the northern desert could be saved. Luli asked Bai Long to leave some loyal warriors of the Bai family to guard the small world. The rest were all sent out. Luli issued a gag order. Nobody was allowed to talk about the small world of green dwarfs and the deserted world. Anyone who did would be killed. Everyone had seen Luli's means. The green dwarfs had been wiped out. Anyone who dared to say anything would be implicated, not only themselves, but their families. Luli jumped into the abyss at the exit. After a glare, they appeared in the area of demons. There were many Shin beasts in the area, but they were scared away by so many powerful warriors. Luli and the others flew above the area. Another tornado. Luli flew up to the sky. He could see the wind and rain, thunder and lightning. In the distance, there was a huge tornado. It was so similar to what he saw at the sea. Luli thought of something. He took out an iron-armored ship and flew over. He waved his hand to Yu Huashen and said, "Yu Huashen, you take care of the rest. I need to cultivate here for a while." Yu Huashen and Mingyu's eyes glowed. They both knew that Luli had learned something at the sea. Learning profound meaning in heaven and earth was a big deal. The empire had just been established, and there were many things to deal with. That being said, Luli had never been a busybody. He could cultivate here or at the Ling Empress City. Clan leader Yi and I will stay here. Yu Huashen, go about your own business. Don't let the northern desert be in trouble. Mingyu said to Yu Huashen and Zi Huanxiao after some thoughts. The two nodded. With Yicha and Mingyu here, Luli's safety was not a problem. They were great generals with many things to deal with. Qiushue, go back first. Your aunt is very worried about you. Seeing that Bai Qiushue was looking at Luli, Bai Long said in a low voice. Bai Qiushue nodded. She flew onto the iron-armored ship, walked to Luli, and said, Luli, I will go back now. I will come back for you later. All right. Luli smiled, waved his hand, and looked at the tornado in the distance. The others came to say their goodbyes, but Luli ignored them. He was focused on the tornado in the distance. He had a feeling that perhaps he might be able to comprehend the profound meaning contained within the tornado. Everyone left. Yu Huashen arranged for some people to stay nearby. Once something went wrong, they would destroy the tunnel connecting to the world of green dwarfs. Autumn Snow and the rest left in a grandiose manner, heading towards the Heaven Prison Island. The 3 patriarchs of the Cyan Phoenix race left as well. Yicha told them to go back and check if the clan leader of the Mammoth race had started to reach the Noble Lord realm. Come closer. After everyone left, Luli waved his hand. Mingyu controlled the iron-armored ship to move closer to the tornado. When they were about 3 miles away, Luli said to Mingyu, You go back as well. Leave clan leader Yi here alone. Your secret force must develop well. I want you to have control over all the intelligence of the entire northern desert. Also, the information about the deserted world must not be leaked out. Otherwise, we will all die without a burial place. If we dare to leak it out, even Yu Huashen will have to die. Mingyu was one of the people Luli trusted the most. The purpose of the secret force was to monitor the world and control the northern desert. Mingyu knew this was a serious matter. Luli wouldn't be in danger at the northern desert. Luli himself was not weak, and he had Yicha with him. Mingyu bowed and left after some thoughts, leaving Yicha alone. Thunder rumbled and lightning flashed in the sky. It was raining, and it was raining. Luli was soaked, but he didn't care. He stood on the deck of the iron-armored ship and stared at the tornado in the distance, lost in thought. Yicha went back to his cabin and sat with his legs crossed to cultivate. But he kept checking the surroundings with his psychic power. If anything happened, he would be informed at once. The northern desert was peaceful. Under the rule of Madame Yin, the world was in peace. Lu Feishue didn't seem to be in charge, but she had been staying in the center and monitoring the world. Bai Qiushue went back to the Heaven Prison City. Bai Xiaoshuang and Zilian were both there. The three of them teleported to the Ling Emperor City and met Madame Yin. Bai Qiushue didn't say much, not even to her aunt. She knew that the more she revealed about the deserted world, the more dangerous it would be for Lu Li and the other families of the Northern Desert. Also, she learned the secret skills of the hag race, which made her feel ashamed to say it out loud. Madame Yin was smart. She had gained a lot of useful information from Bai Qiushue's words. But she knew Lu Li must have his reasons for keeping the information secret. There were many things she didn't understand, but the Bai family and Lu Li were in the same boat. Naturally, she would follow Lu Li's lead. After 7 or 8 days at the Ling Emperor City, Bai Qiushue couldn't stand it anymore. She said she wanted to go back to the Heaven Prison City to cultivate. Bai Xiaoshuang couldn't sit still either. She was under Madame Yan's control here, but back at the Heaven Prison City, she was like a wild horse. Madame Yin threw Bai Qiushue a meaningful look, but didn't say anything. She told him to go back. She trusted Bai Qiushue. As Madame Yin expected, after a couple of days at the Heaven Prison City, Bai Qiushue and Bai Xiaoshuang went to the area of demons to find Lu Li. When Madame Yin heard the news, she didn't blame them. Instead, she was delighted. The Northern Desert had an emperor, but not a queen. Madame Yin didn't worry about what happened next. She just sent someone to the nearby sea area to ensure everyone's safety. Bai Qiushue and Bai Xiaoshuang arrived at the area of demons on the iron-armored ship. Today, lightning and thunder were flashing and the rain was pouring. In the middle of the lake, a tornado was raging, rolling up the lake water. Bai Qiushue and Bai Xiaoshuang saw nobody on the deck of the iron-armored ship near the tornado. Instead, they saw a vague figure near the tornado. "It is Lu Li." Bai Qiushue and Bai Qiushue got a better look. Bai Xiaoshuang's mouth was opened so wide that she could swallow an egg. In the huge tornado in the distance, Lu Li was on his silver fate wheel. He was being spun around by the tornado. He seemed to have lost control of his body. He was spinning toward the center of the tornado. Swish! Right at that moment, a bolt of lightning whooshed across the sky and landed near the tornado. It went past Lu Li and landed in the lake. Bai Qiushue and Bai Xiaoshuang were so scared that their faces turned pale. "Help!" Chapter 4:15. Dark clouds were pressing down. The sea was surging, the wind was raging, and lightning was piercing through the sky. The scene in the area of demons was like the end of the world. If an average person were to come in and see this, they would be scared out of their wits. It just so happened that a man was moving in and out of the tornado. He would try to fly his fate wheel out from time to time, but every time, he would be thrown around by the strong wind. When he finally stabilized his body, he flew out again. When he arrived outside the tornado, the strength of the wind doubled, and his body was sucked in again. He was like a man falling into a whirlpool in a lake. He tried his best to swim out, but he could not get rid of the suction. He was like a fish struggling on the beach, unable to return to the sea. Lu Li had been fighting in the tornado for 3 days and 3 nights. He didn't fall in by accident. He flew in on his own initiative. Coming back to life from the brink of death, Lu Li had been studying for several days. He had a strong urge. If he wanted to comprehend the profound meaning contained within the tornado, he would have to enter the tornado. How could he catch tiger cubs without entering the tiger's den? At first, Yichao was worried. He stayed outside at all times, ready to rescue Lu Li. After a day of observation, Yichao was relieved. The tornadoes here were not as horrifying as those at sea. Lu Li was strong enough that the tearing and strangling force in the tornadoes could not tear him apart. On the off chance that he could not stand it, Lu Li would crush the jade talisman. Bai Qiushue and Bai Xiaoshuang were relieved to make sure that Lu Li was not in danger for now. They put away the iron-armored ship and went to Lu Li's iron-armored ship with some servants and escorts. Then they stood on the deck and looked at Lu Li going in and out of the tornado and being sucked into it every now and then, regardless of the storm. Crazy. Bai Xiaoshuang thought it was crazy enough for Bai Qiushue to go into the world of green dwarfs alone. Lu Li's cultivation was even crazier. Being torn apart by the strong force, Lu Li must be enduring endless pain. But he had been there for 3 days and 3 nights. Bai Qiuxue felt sorry for Lu Li. Bai Xiaoshuang was a carefree girl. She did not understand why Lu Li was cultivating so crazily, but Bai Qiuxue did. Even though Lu Li was a disciple of the Lu family, he had climbed up step by step from the bottom. People like Lu Li cared more about power than other young masters from wealthy families because they had no one to rely on. They could only rely on themselves. Bai Qiuxue did not know why Lu Li went to the Central Plains and came back, unify the northern desert and be a local tyrant. But she knew very well that Lu Li was not a man who longed for power or status. Otherwise, he would have unified the northern desert years ago. After unifying the northern desert, Lu Li did nothing. He even preferred Bai Xiaoshuang and the others to call him by his name instead of emperor. It could be seen from this that Lu Li came back to the northern desert for resources, for cultivation, and for strength, not for power and enjoyment. When Bai Qiuxue went to the Ling Empress city, she asked about Lu Ling. Madame Yin and the others had no idea what was going on, which meant that Lu Ling had not been saved yet. Therefore, it was understandable why Lu Li was cultivating so crazily. Lu Li stayed in the tornado for a day and a night. Finally, he could not stand it any longer. He crushed the jade talisman, and Yi Cha rushed in and brought him out. Lu Li's robe and hair were drenched in sweat. He was exhausted and weak. He saw Bai Qiuxue and Bai Xiaoshuang standing on the deck and grinned. Then he fell asleep. He slept for 2 days and 2 nights. When he woke up in a daze, he noticed someone was by his bedside. When he opened his eyes, he saw a head full of black hair. A woman was leaning over his bed, asleep. The girl was sleeping on her side, peaceful. There was a cinnabar mark between her eyebrows. It was easy to tell that it was Bai Qiuxue. Lu Li tried to get up quietly, but Bai Qiuxue was alarmed. She opened her eyes in a daze. Her sleepy look was so beautiful that Lu Li couldn't help but stroke her face. Bai Qiuxue's eyes became clear. When she saw it was Lu Li, she smiled sweetly and asked gently, "Lu Li, are you okay?" Maybe it was because Bai Qiuxue was cultivating the enchantment. Every frown and smile of hers was so charming that Lu Li was mesmerized. He stared at her without saying a word. Soon, Bai Qiuxue's cheeks blushed. She tried to avoid Lu Li's passionate eyes. She was so shy that she couldn't even look up. The coquettish behavior of a young girl made Lu Li stare at her even more. He couldn't help but say, "Qiuxue, you are so beautiful." Bai Qiuxue was even more shy. Her body was tensed up. Lu Li caressed her face. She was nervous and shy. She wanted to move away, but she liked this feeling. Lu Li sat up. He held Bai Qiuxue's hand and said with sincerity, "Qiuxue, have you thought about what I told you the other day?" "What is it?" I forgot." Bai Qiuxue lowered her head. Young girls were more reserved when it came to this. Bai Qiuxue's upbringing in the Bai family forced her to be so. Lu Li grinned. He pulled Bai Qiuxue up, sat her on the edge of the bed, and said softly, "The empire needs an empress." Bai Qiuxue turned her head away, afraid to look into Lu Li's passionate eyes. She said, "The empire needs a queen." "Why are you asking me? You are the emperor of the northern desert. Many young ladies will offer themselves to you. Do you think you don't have a queen?" Lu Li smiled gently and said, "Of all the beauties, I will only take one. I only like that young lady of the Bai family." "Bai family? Which Bai family?" Bai Qiuxue's neck was red. She pretended to be confused and said, "There are many in the Bai family. We have many young ladies as well." "Yes." Lu Li smiled again and said, "There are many young ladies of the Bai family, but there's only one Bai Qiuxue. Qiuxue, I like you." Boom! Like a thunderbolt, Lu Li's straightforward words and strong moves crushed Bai Qiuxue's heart. Her heart was beating fast, and she didn't know what to do. She had been mentally prepared these days. Otherwise, she wouldn't have come here with Bai Xiaoshuang. But now, she was panicking. She felt sweetness, nervousness, and fear. Once Lu Li had made up his mind, he would not hesitate. He didn't like to be sloppy either. Therefore, he put his arms around Bai Qiuxue and then kissed her with his mouth. He kissed her clumsily and passionately. Bai Qiuxiue was stunned. She froze. She didn't know how to fight back. She just let Lu Li do whatever he wanted. She noticed that a tongue had opened her lips. She was trembling. What was more, she also noticed that Lu Li was not being honest. He reached his hand into her robe and put it on a place that no man had ever touched before. She was lost and at a complete loss. She had to let Lu Li explore, rustle, rustle, rustle. All of a sudden, there came some hurried footsteps. A person rushed in a panic. Lu Li and Bai Qiuxiue separated in a flash. Lu Li quickly lay down, pretending to be asleep. Bai Qiuxiue sat with a blushed face. She didn't even have time to tidy up her clothes. Sister, Bai Xiaoshuang rushed in like a gust of wind. Her face was red, her eyes were flirting, and she was breathing heavily. She threw a glance to Lu Li. Seeing that he had closed his eyes and was sound asleep, Bai Xiaoshuang whispered to Bai Qiuxiue in a panic, "Sister, I am haunted. I felt someone touched here and kissed me. I don't feel well. Sister, what is going on? I'm so scared." Lu Li opened his eyes abruptly. He felt as if thunder had exploded in his heart. He trembled. He had heard that twins could have telepathy. Bai Xiaoshuang once said that as long as Bai Qiuxiue was 30 miles away, she could feel it. He didn't know that it was real. Oh no. He suddenly had a bad feeling. In the future, if he and Bai Qiuxiue made love, would Bai Xiaoshuang feel as well? If he shot an arrow, both vultures would be hit. P.S. Here are the 5 chapters. Happy Chinese Valentine's Day. If you have a lover, go and have an affair. If you don't have a lover, go and find one. Many people are thirsty tonight. As long as you are brave enough and shameless enough, miracles will happen. Also, a fan of the book drew a picture of the hag race. I will post it on the official WeChat account. It looks like it. On the official WeChat account, search for Night Demon or Yaoya588. Chapter 416. Telepathy was a real thing. It was more likely for twins to have telepathy. Twins were pregnant for 10 months at the same time. They were connected by blood and grew up together. It was normal for them to have some mental connection. If the twins had awakened 7th-rank bloodlines at the same time and their souls were powerful, it would be normal for them to have strong telepathy. Lu Li had thought that Bai Qiuxiue and Bai Xiaoshuang could only sense each other's existence. He didn't expect that when he touched her, she could feel it as well. This troubled Lu Li. Could it be that from now on, he and Bai Qiuxiue could only have spiritual love? Otherwise, once they had a physical relationship, wouldn't Bai Xiaoshuang be violated indirectly by him? Bai Qiuxiue was scared as well. She dragged Bai Xiaoshuang out in a hurry. She didn't know what to do. All she could do was to comfort Bai Xiaoshuang with some nonsense. Autumn Snow, on the other hand, understood that the telepathy between the two sisters was indeed extraordinary compared to that of ordinary twins. When they were kids, when one of them was sick, the other one would fall ill as well. Once, Bai Xiaoshuang was injured and she was in so much pain. But how could she explain this to Bai Xiaoshuang? She couldn't say that she was kissed and touched by Lu Li. Next time, if Bai Xiaoshuang felt something, she could pretend that she couldn't do anything or that she was possessed. Bai Qiuxiue had always been reserved. There were some things that she was too ashamed to say. She had to keep it to herself. She locked herself in the cabin and racked her brains for a solution. For the next few days, Bai Qiuxiue never came out again. Lu Li wanted to spend some time with her, but he was nowhere to be found. Bai Xiaoshuang was a simple girl. She soon forgot about it. She would chat with Lu Li every now and then. She even asked Lu Li to take her to the nearby islands. Lu Li was not in the mood to play with Bai Xiaoshuang. If he married Bai Qiuxiue, she would be his sister-in-law. How could he take his sister-in-law around when he had nothing better to do? Bai Qiuxiue was not settled yet. Lu Li was not in the mood to play with his sister-in-law. 3 days later, another tornado came over the lake area. Lu Li had to leave Bai Qiuxiue alone for now. He flew into the tornado again and continued to study the profound meaning of the tornado. The first few days when he was in the tornado, he had a clearer feeling. He was sure that there was a profound meaning in heaven and earth hidden in the tornado. It was just that he hadn't grasped it yet. If the first time didn't work, he would do it twice. If 1 month didn't work, he would do it for a year. Profound comprehension was the most difficult, but cultivation of realms was easy. As long as there were enough spiritual materials, it could be pushed up. It was not difficult for a big family to train a warrior of the noble lord realm. But it was hard to train a powerful warrior. A martial practitioner who had not awakened a powerful bloodline or comprehended a powerful profound would never be able to become an expert. The resources of the big families were not endless. If you couldn't awaken a powerful bloodline or comprehend a powerful profound meaning, you wouldn't be able to do anything. After reaching the noble lord realm, resources would decrease. Another point was that if one got older, resources would also decrease. This was because the older one got, the worse one's perception would be. Their bodily functions would also regress. 2 days later, a patriarch of the Cyan Phoenix race came. Second patriarch had taken some mystical materials from Madame Yin and sent them to the small world. The clan leader and the 2 patriarchs of the mammoth race had been at the peak of the eternal realm for many years. As soon as they got the mystical materials, they started closed-door cultivation to try to reach the noble lord realm. There would be news about them in half a year. The patriarch of the Cyan Phoenix race also asked for some more mystical materials for the eternal realm patriarchs of the mammoth race to cultivate so that they could reach the peak of the eternal realm and then try to reach the noble lord realm. After 3 days and 3 nights, Lu Li was extremely weak. He was brought back by Yi Cha again. When he woke up and learned about the news from the patriarch of the Cyan Phoenix race, he nodded. Half a year was not a long time. He could use this time to figure out a way to learn the profound meaning in the tornado. Bai Qiuxue also needed to further cultivate the enchantment so that she could go to the deserted world and fight. Lu Li couldn't sit still on the thought of the enchantment. He got up and walked to Bai Qiuxue's room. He knocked on the door. A gentle voice came from inside. "Who is it?" "It's me," Lu Li said in a deep voice. From inside came some flustered voices. Bai Qiuxue quickly said, "Didn't you go to cultivate? What is it?" "Yes, it is business," Lu Li answered with a straight face. There was no sound in the room. After a while, the door was opened. Bai Qiuxue looked at Lu Li with a blushed face and said, "Say it here. Where is Shuang?" Lu Li looked into the cabin. He was curious that he didn't see Bai Xia Shuang. Bai Qiuxue glared at Lu Li and said, "Shuang went to the Puji island nearby. She said she missed the Puji fruits there. I think she will be back soon." "Oh." Lu Li's eyes glowed. He dashed into the cabin directly. Bai Qiuxue's face turned red. She stomped her feet and said, How can you do this? How can you break into a girl's room? If this gets out, how am I supposed to face myself?" Lu Li was thick-skinned. He grinned and said, "What are you afraid of? I am the emperor of the northern desert. If anyone dares to gossip, I will have his teeth knocked out." "You scoundrel." Bai Qiuxue glared at Lu Li and closed the door quickly. There were maids and servants on the ship. It would be bad if they were seen. After the door was closed, she sat behind a table in the room in a reserved manner. She looked at Lu Li with alertness and said, "What is it? Just say it." Lu Li was happy to see Bai Qiuxue like this, but he put on a serious face and asked, "Qiuxue, can you cultivate the enchantment? Can you make it stronger?" Bai Qiuxue could already charm warriors at the peak of the noble lord realm. If she could make further progress and charm warriors at the human sovereign realm, she could conquer the deserted world all by herself without the need for the mammoth race. "Yes," Bai Qiuxue said seriously. "There are 3 levels of the enchantment. The first is called Charm the World, the second is Charm the World, and the third is Awe the Gods and Demons. I am at the first level now." Lu Li was taken aback. The enchantment was powerful. Just the name alone could tell that it was impressive. She was already so good at the first level. Maybe the second and third levels could really awe the gods and demons. Impressive. Lu Li gave her a thumbs up. Bai Qiuxue lowered her head in embarrassment. Lu Li suddenly stood up, walked to the table, and said, "Don't you have any tea here? I am thirsty." Seeing Lu Li sitting at the table with a straight face, Bai Qiuxue stood up to pour some tea for him. Unexpectedly, Luli suddenly put his arms around her waist and pulled her into his arms. Bai Qiuxue was both embarrassed and angry. She said, "What are you doing? Let go of me, you pervert." Luli made a shushing gesture and said in a low voice, "Don't scream. It will be bad if the servants and clan leader Yi hear us." Bai Qiuxue didn't dare to scream anymore. She wanted to get rid of him, but Luli had his arms around her waist. She had to put her hands against Lu Li's chest. Her face was blushing. She was trying to resist, but at the same time, which made Lu Li angry. That day, the affection and tenderness were ruined by Xiaoshuang. Now that Xiaoshuang was not here, Lu Li wouldn't hold back. His other hand gently caressed Autumn Snow's thigh, before moving on to Autumn Snow's voluptuous buttocks and kneading them. All of a sudden, a feminine voice drifted over from outside. In the next moment, a person rushed in like a bolt of lightning. Autumn Snow leapt up like a sharp sword. Chapter 417. Bai Xiaoshuang's sudden return once again interrupted Lu Li and Bai Qiushue's intimate moment. Seeing that Bai Xiaoshuang was blushing, Lu Li stood up with a guilty conscience. Then he said with a straight face, "Shuang'er, you're not young anymore. Don't play around all day. Learn from your sister and cultivate. Your forefather is in danger, and you are shouldering the responsibility of revitalizing your family. Your aunt and Uncle Lung are watching you. Don't let them down." With that said, Lu Li left with a heavy heart. Bai Xiaoshuang was scolded. She blushed and was ashamed. For a moment, she forgot about the strange feeling on her, but after Lu Li left, she said with shame, "Lu Li is right. From today on, I will cultivate. Sister, I will not play around anymore." Bai Qiuxue didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She said, "Lu Li is right. Shuang'er, you really need to focus." Bai Xiaoshuang nodded. She finally remembered the strange feeling. She opened her eyes wide and said with fear, "Sister, I felt someone touching my butt. Is it a sneak attack from the yellow goblin race? No, it is too dangerous here. Let's go back to the Ling Empress City." Bai Qiuxue burst into laughter. She had a comfort Bai Xiaoshuang. She was afraid that Lu Li would do something reckless, but she had some hope. Lu Li had just confessed his love to her. How could she leave? The mind of the young girl was like the wind, the mist, and the rain. Nobody could tell. Bai Xiaoshuang pondered over the painful experience. She behaved herself and cultivated often. Bai Qiuxue was too embarrassed to go out. She would only stand on the deck and look at Lu Li when he was cultivating in the tornado. When Lu Li came back, Bai Qiuxue went back to her room to cultivate. She would cultivate Xian energy in Soul Pond. Every now and then, she would cultivate the enchantment. Life was fulfilling. The northern desert was peaceful. At the beginning of the empire, Yu Huashan was killing people everywhere. Madame Yin used both the carrot and the stick. Mingyu was monitoring the world. Nobody dared to disobey, and nobody dared to act recklessly. People of the northern desert gradually forgot about the Heaven Frigid Kingdom, the Heaven Martial Kingdom, and the Heaven Cold Kingdom. Madame Yin sent someone to spread the word about Lu Li's achievements, making him a young hero and a legend. Many young boys and girls of the northern desert regarded Lu Li as their idol, a god. Naturally, the northern desert became peaceful. However, peace was only on the surface. Many families were still secretly angry, but they did not dare to show it in public. Why? It was all about interests. Lu Li would get 30% of the benefits from the unification of the northern desert. The Bai family, the Yu family, and the Zi family would get 30%, and the remaining 30% would be shared among all the families of the northern desert. If Qi Tianfan, He Jun, and other fifth-rank families were included, how many families were there in the northern desert? How many third and fourth-rank families were there? There were more than 100 third-rank families at the Thousand Island Lake. How many were there in the other three kingdoms? Lu Li took over all the mines, mountains, and farms and gave them to the empire. Only a small amount of resources was given to them. What did those families rely on to make a living? What did they rely on to raise and nurture their clan's disciples? What did they rely on to recruit outer hall martial artists? Of course, those families didn't dare to say anything. This was how cruel the northern desert was. Fists were the law. He could only curse secretly to vent his anger. Mingyu's dark guards were everywhere, and he had to be careful when cursing secretly. There was nothing Luli could do. He came back to the northern desert for resources. The empire had just been established, and he needed a large amount of mystical materials and Xian crystals. Luli had to make sure that he had food to eat and mystical materials to cultivate before he could worry about the interests of the families of the northern desert. Otherwise, what was the point of unifying the northern desert? There were too many families. Luli could not guarantee that everyone would have food. The establishment of an empire meant that many new forces would come to power, and the power structure of the continent would be reshuffled. If Luli had to take care of the interests of everyone, then he would not be able to be the emperor anymore. Time flew by. 2 months had passed. Luli continued to cultivate in the area of demons. Bai Xiaoshuang and Bai Qiuxue were in closed-door cultivation as well. Yu Huashan was busy with the family businesses, and Madame Yin was busy with the reorganization of the entire northern desert. Mingyu was busy as well. He came to see Luli once, and Luli gave him a task. Find someone to go into the ice abyss. The ice abyss was the most dangerous place of the northern desert. Not even human sovereign realm warriors could come out. Lu Renhuang had been in there for more than 10 years, and he couldn't come out. Therefore, the place was dangerous. Luli had to try even though he knew he would die for sure. He was the emperor of the northern desert now, and he had too many subordinates. Also, he didn't have to do it himself. There were many condemned prisoners in the prison. Luli could just throw them into the prison. Mingyu found many condemned prisoners with different abilities and skills. There were also some special races such as the green dwarfs and the yellow goblins. Mingyu promised them that as long as they could come out from the ice abyss, they would be pardoned and set free. The condemned prisoners were excited. They were going to die anyway, so they might as well take the risk. There was an old Beast King at the south of the ice abyss, but it didn't mean that there were no more Beast Kings. Mingyu sent someone to investigate and found there was another Beast King at the north. But that wasn't a problem. There was only one Beast King that could be lured away. Beast Kings were comparable to human sovereign realm warriors, but they were Xian beasts after all. They weren't intelligent. It was easy to lure them away. As long as the plan was good, there wouldn't be too many deaths. Luli told Mingyu again and again to keep a secret. He told others that Mingyu was trying to get a rare, mystical materials from the ice abyss. Luli didn't even tell Mingyu that Lu Renhuang was in the ice abyss. Mingyu was a dull person and he didn't like to ask questions. He would do whatever Luli told him. It was just to send some people down to the ice abyss. It wasn't too difficult. It just required some time and condemned prisoners. Hoi! Above the lake of demons, a tornado roared into the sky like an angry dragon coming out of the sea. There was no thunderstorm today, but the wind was stronger. A man was spinning around in the tornado. He tried to get out, but was sucked back in. How come I can't get it? Luli felt every part of his muscles and bones were being torn apart, but he didn't mind. He had been cultivating in the tornado for more than 2 months, and he had gotten used to it. There was a strong feeling in his mind, but he just couldn't see through it. He couldn't grasp the meaning contained in it. This feeling was unbearable and stifling. He had endured the pain of being torn apart countless times and wasted more than 2 months, yet he hadn't made any progress. This made Luli doubt himself. He wondered if he could understand it or if he was going the wrong direction. The 2 months were not for nothing. Luli's body was much stronger than before. This was similar to when he refined his body under the waterfall. After being torn apart by the tornado for a long time, his body's defensive strength had been enhanced. Average warriors wouldn't be able to pierce through his body now. Waterfall? On this thought, Luli suddenly thought of something. He remembered when he was young. He would hack at the waterfall with his saber. He remembered the swift and fierce moves. He looked at the howling wind, and his eyes glowed brighter and brighter. Speed is the only unbeatable martial art in the world. Is the profound meaning in the tornado the speed profound meaning? Chapter 4:18. Luli once created a saber skill. It was not a Xian skill, but it was as powerful as Xian skills. The only thing special about that saber skill was its speed. Each move was faster than the previous one. Luli had been studying in the tornado for more than 2 months. He had thought that the profound meaning contained in the tornado must have something to do with wind or strength. The tearing force of the tornado was strong. He had been studying the wind and the strength in the tornado for the past 2 months. Only now did he realize it. He was going the wrong direction. What he was studying in the tornado was not wind or strength, but speed. Of all the martial arts in the world, only speed was unbeatable. Speed was a kind of strength as well, and it could do great harm. For example, a meteorite could be smashed by an average warrior with one punch. But what if the speed of the meteorite was extremely fast? That is right. If the wind is not fast, then it is just a breeze, a gentle wind without any lethality. How can tornadoes be so powerful? How can they tear apart ships and grind the reefs into dust? It is because the speed of the tornado is extremely fast. The faster it is, the more inertia it generates and the more strength it has. The strength of the tornado is not the wind, but the speed. Speed is also a kind of strength, a horrifying one. But how can the speed be so horrifying? If I want to run fast, I must have a strong body. In other words, the warrior must have strength. Since warriors have strength, why do they need to turn speed into strength? Luli was in deep thought. He needed horrifying speed and then turn it into strength. The problem was that speed required strength. If he had great strength, then he wouldn't need to turn speed into strength. This was contradictory. If I don't have great strength, how can I be so fast? No, the wind is gentle. Wind itself has no strength. How can it be so fast? Luli opened his eyes. He was spinning and rolling in the tornado. His body was still being torn apart by the tornado. He didn't care about that at all. He stared at the tornado and tried to figure out the profound meaning. How does the tornado come into being? Luli thought of a key question. The wind was gentle. How could it turn into a tornado? If he could find the answer, he could solve the mystery. Spin. His eyes suddenly narrowed. Tornadoes were different from ordinary winds because they could spin. Luli squinted for a long time. Suddenly, he had an idea. He laughed and said, "Ha ha ha, I see." The reason why the tornado could spin was because it affected the power of heaven and earth. It borrowed the power of heaven and earth to spin. After it spun, it produced a powerful force that attracted even more power of the world, helping it spin faster and faster. Then, I will continue to draw upon the power of heaven and earth, repeating the cycle of the heavenly Tao, borrowing power to fight power. Ha ha. Luli couldn't stop laughing like a madman. The more he laughed, the more excited he became. He accidentally used Dragon Roar, and his laughter resounded in an area with a radius of more than 30 miles. Many of the scouts hiding nearby were shocked. The great emperor had been cultivating in the tornado for more than 2 months. Could it be that he had gone crazy from going around every day? Whoosh, by Xiaoshuang, by Qiushue, and Yicha flew out from the cabin and looked at Luli with worry. Bai Qiushue even wanted to fly towards the tornado, but Yi Jie stopped her. Don't panic. Gongzi must have comprehended something. It's not a bad thing. Yicha squinted at Luli, filled with surprise. Luli was not even 17. How could he understand a profound meaning at the Fate Wheel realm? If he could, Luli could go on and eventually learn a profound meaning. To be able to learn a profound meaning, even if it was of the second or third rank, would be a horrifying achievement. That being said, Yicha put on a bitter smile on the thought that Luli was not weak either. He could even kill warriors of the Noble Lord realm. Many old warriors would be ashamed to death if they compared themselves with Luli. Bai Xiaoshuang shouted all of a sudden. Yicha stopped his thoughts and turned to Luli. What he saw shocked him. Luli controlled his fate wheel to fly up. He wasn't flying out, nor was he flying along the tornado. He was flying against the wind. That was right, against the wind. It was such a horrifying tornado, and Luli was going to fly against it. Over the past 2 months, he had tried many times to fly out, but to no avail. How horrifying was the wind? Now, he was going to fly against it. More importantly, he really did it. Even though he was flying slowly against the wind and he was spinning fast, Yicha, Bai Xiaoshuang and Bai Qiushue could see that Lu Li was really flying against the wind. It was like a man being washed away by a huge wave, but he was swimming against the current, paddling, and trying to swim upstream. It was a funny scene. The tornado was so strong that Lu Li felt like he was an ant drowning. Now, the ant was trying to shake the sky. What shocked everyone even more was that Lu Li's flying speed was getting faster and faster. He was now almost at the same speed as the tornado. It was as if Lu Li was still in the air and the tornado was still spinning. After the time for one incense stick to burn, Bai Xiaoshuang's mouth was wide open. Lu Li had withstood the horrifying wind and was flying against it. It was as if a person was strolling on the surface of a roaring river, easily going against the current. Go! With a thunderous shout, Lu Li was flying faster and faster. Then, the tornado suddenly collapsed in midair. Without any warning, the tornado shattered and disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. There were no more tornadoes in front of them, and the wind blowing in the surroundings quickly weakened. If it were not for the fact that there was still a whirlpool in the lake, the three of them would have thought that there was no tornado in the lake area. He has learned a little bit of a profound meaning. Saint Lord is really a genius. Maybe the Cyan Phoenix race can take back our ancestral land under the leadership of our Saint Lord. Yi Cha burst into tears. Lu Li could break the tornado so easily, which meant that he had learned a little bit of a profound meaning. He was so young, so it should not be a problem for him to master this profound meaning. Also, by the looks of it, the profound meaning he learned must not be of the average second or third rank. Wow, Lu Li, you are so good. Bai Xiaoshuang finally came to her senses and shouted. For her, the tornado was like thunder, the power of heaven and earth, the horrifying power of nature. That was something that could not be resisted or approached. How could Lu Li destroy the tornado so easily? It meant that Lu Li had the power to go against heaven and earth. Bai Qiushue's eyes glowed. She looked at the young man, standing in midair with pride. Her eyes were filled with affection and love. This was the man she, Autumn Snow, liked. Only such a man was worthy of her, Autumn Snow. Whoosh, Lu Li flew his fate wheel back with a big smile on his face. He was immersed in joy. He didn't know how powerful the thing he learned was, but he was sure that he had learned a little bit of a profound meaning. In other words, he was on the threshold of this profound meaning. As long as he kept on learning, he would master it sooner or later. He looked into Bai Qiushue's eyes. Their eyes were filled with passion and affection. When a man and a woman were in love, they only had eyes for each other. They wanted each other to be the first to know when something good happened, and they wanted to share their joy with each other. However, Chapter 419. No, I have to get rid of this girl. Lu Li made up his mind. When he flew back, he waved his hand and said, Yi Cha, send someone to prepare a banquet. We have to celebrate today. Okay. Yi Cha left at once. Bai Xiaoshuang brought some maids and servants with them. There were several cooks as well. They were here to serve the two young ladies and Lu Li. Wow. Lu Li, you really learned a profound meaning. Bai Xiaoshuang pulled Lu Li aside and asked, What profound meaning did you learn? What rank? 8th rank or 9th rank profound meaning? Lu Li, you are so talented to learn a profound meaning at the Fate Wheel realm. Have you learned some secrets from the Lu family? Bai Xiaoshuang kept asking questions, but Lu Li didn't have time to chat with her. He looked at her seriously and said, Shuanger, what realm are you at recently? Have you reached the peak of the Soul Pond realm? Bai Xiaoshuang stuck out her chest and said, I will reach the peak of the Soul Pond realm soon. By then, I will ask my aunt for some mystical materials. I will be able to reach the Fate Wheel realm soon. Lu Li, don't underestimate me. Lu Li thought of something. He looked at Bai Xiaoshuang with disdain and said, Bai Xiaoshuang, I am not underestimating you. If you can reach the Fate Wheel realm in 3 months, I will give you 3 sets of mystical materials. What do you say? Do you dare to take the bet? Bai Xiaoshuang was innocent and hot-tempered. She couldn't stand the provocation. She stared at Lu Li and said, Okay, you said it. Don't go back on your word. With that said, Bai Xiaoshuang pulled by Qiushue and said, "Sister, let's go back to the Ling Emperor's city. I will go back and cultivate. I will reach the Fate-Will realm in 3 months." Lu Li was getting anxious. He wanted to lure Bai Xiaoshuang away so that he could have some alone time with Bai Qiushue. Now, Bai Xiaoshuang was going to take Bai Qiushue away. He said with a straight face, "Shuang, I have business to discuss with your sister. I want her to do something important for me. How about you go back first? In any case, you'll be cultivating in seclusion when you return." Bai Qiushue blushed. Bai Xiaoshuang sensed something was off. She looked at Lu Li and Bai Qiushue with suspicion and asked, "Lu Li, do you like my sister? Did you deliberately send me away because you wanted to hit on my sister?" "Absolutely not," Lu Li said with a straight face. "You sisters are of one mind. Even if I have to flirt with you, I will flirt with both of you. Why would I send one away?" "Bah!" Bai Qiushue and Bai Xiaoshuang spat at the same time. Bai Xiaoshuang glared at Lu Li and dragged Bai Qiushue away. On their way, Bai Xiaoshuang said to Lu Li, "Sister, stay away from this hooligan from now on. He might cheat you of your money and sex." F***CK. Lu Li secretly cursed. This sister-in-law was so troublesome. Unfortunately, Bai Qiushue was quite shy in this aspect. He couldn't just knock her out, right? That's right, if I can't knock him out, I can use other methods. Lu Li's lips curled into a smile, but no matter how he looked at it, it still looked very wretched. The banquet was sumptuous. Lu Li was in a good mood after learning a profound meaning. Yichao was happy as well. He asked someone to prepare some good wine and tea for them to drink to their heart's content. Bai Qiushue and Bai Xiaoshuang were present. Bai Qiushue acted as if she had nothing to do with Lu Li. She was reserved at the table. She only toasted to Lu Li and said little. Lu Li didn't dare to make it public. Once he did, Bai Xiaoshuang would know that Lu Li had kissed and touched Bai Qiushue, which would make her feel like she was being kissed as well. Lu Li hadn't figured out how to deal with this yet. He had to keep it a secret for now. Bai Xiaoshuang was bold and unrestrained. She was bored after the period of closed-door cultivation. She never had a good meal. Now, she was eating and drinking with great excitement. Lu Li had changed his attitude. He was polite to Bai Xiaoshuang. He kept toasting her and flattering her with words. Bai Xiaoshuang was in a daze. She drank too much before she knew it. Bai Qiushue was smart enough to know what Lu Li was up to. But Yichao was here. She couldn't say much. She just glared at Lu Li every now and then, but Lu Li ignored her. The banquet went on for over 2 hours. Yichao left with a smile. Bai Xiaoshuang was drunk. Her face was red and her eyes were blurred, but she still had a goblet in her hand. She kept saying, "Come on, Lu Li, don't go home until you're drunk." Bai Qiushue couldn't stand it anymore. She asked a maid to bring Bai Qiushue back to her room. When there was no one else in the room, Bai Qiushue glared at Lu Li and said angrily, "Shuang is just a kid. Why are you getting her drunk?" "Ha ha ha." Lu Li laughed and said, "You're twins of the same age. How can you call her a kid? Also, she is in a good mood. What's wrong with drinking more? It is said that a married daughter will side with an outsider. Why don't you help me? I don't want to marry you." Bai Qiushue rolled her eyes. Then, she asked seriously, "Lu Li, what kind of profound meaning did you learn from the tornado?" "I don't know the details. I need more time to study it." Lu Li thought about it and explained, "I think it is something related to speed. I have only scratched the surface. I don't know how to use it to enhance my abilities yet. But the day I succeed, my speed will at least increase by 10 or even 100 times. Lu Li, congratulations." Bai Qiushue was happy for Lu Li from the bottom of her heart. His speed had reached the extreme. At least, Lu Li's ability to protect himself could be strengthened. This profound meaning was not something that could be learned easily. "Ha ha," Lu Li grinned. Suddenly, he moved to where Bai Xiaoshuang was sitting. He reached out to grab Bai Qiushue's hand and said, "Qiushue, I have worked so hard to learn a profound meaning. Don't you think you should give me some reward? Ha ha." Bai Qiushue flew out like a butterfly. At the door, she turned back with a smile and said, "You want a reward? Wait until you become a human sovereign realm warrior. My forefather has said that I will marry a human sovereign realm warrior. Your realm is not high enough. Bai Qiushue flew away like a butterfly. Luli was enraged. He was the emperor of the northern desert. Wouldn't an emperor be a sovereign among humans? The alcohol was getting to his head. He couldn't care less. He dashed towards Bai Qiushue's room like a gust of wind. Bai Qiushue had just returned to her room. Before she could close the door, Luli rushed in. But as soon as Luli got in, he felt sick. Bai Qiushue's eyes were wide open, and another person's eyes were even wider. Bai Xiaoshuang must have had too much to drink. She couldn't hold it in any longer. She was squatting by the bed and peeing on a chamber pot. This was her and Bai Qiushue's room. How could she know that a man would break in? She was already drunk, so she didn't think too much. Looking at her white butt, the liquid flowing down like a stream, and the mysterious area that was faintly discernible, Luli was stunned, but he reacted quickly. He noticed that Bai Xiaoshuang's blushing face had turned ghastly pale, and she was emitting killing intent. Luli's eyes became blurred. He looked around, scratched his head, and said, "How come? This is not my room. I went to the wrong room. It should be that one. I am drunk, so I can't even tell the direction." While talking, Luli staggered toward the outside. From behind him came a furious shout. Ah, Luli, I will kill you. I will kill you. P.S. I don't want monthly votes. I only want recommendation votes, recommendation votes, recommendation votes. Tomorrow, I will continue." Chapter 420. Bai Xiaoshuang and Bai Qiushue left. Luli accidentally saw Bai Xiaoshuang peeing, which made her too ashamed to see anyone. After Luli ran away, she flew back to the Heaven Prison City in tears. Bai Qiushue was worried about Bai Xiaoshuang, so she had to go with her. Luli could not explain this. He could not just go into a girl's bedroom. Luli thought Bai Xiaoshuang was drunk, and he wanted to have some time with Bai Qiushue, which was not wrong. He couldn't even apologize or face Bai Qiushue and Bai Xiaoshuang. He had to put it aside. Time could dilute it. He could make it up to Bai Xiaoshuang and give some benefits to the Bai family. Luli had mastered the speed profound meaning, but it didn't mean that he was fine. He had to go further. There was still much he didn't understand. More importantly, he didn't know how to use it to enhance his abilities. He made up his mind to continue cultivating here. Mingyu would come over every once in a while and tell him about the situation at the northern desert. It made no difference whether he was at the Ling Empress City or here. Luli didn't see any tornado after a day's rest. He decided to cultivate for a couple of days to cultivate his Xian energy and soul pond. Now that he had mastered the profound meaning, he didn't have to worry about the rest. He needed to improve his realm. It had been more than half a year since the last time he made a fate wheel. His realm was stable, and he could try to reach the middle stage of the fate wheel realm and build the next one. The tornado came again after he cultivated for half a month. Yichao woke Luli up. Luli went into the tornado and studied for a day. Luli wanted to put the speed profound meaning into practice. However, he accidentally caused the tornado to collapse again. Without the tornado, Luli couldn't learn anything. He had to come back to cultivate his Xian energy and soul pond. He was ready to reach the middle stage of the fate wheel realm anyway, so he needed to improve his Xian energy and soul energy. Luli was cultivating Xian energy at a fast speed, 100 times faster than before. He bought a batch of pellets from the Pavilion of Delicacy, named Pellets of Delicacy, which were made by the Pavilion of Delicacy themselves. The pellets were the best of the Central Plains. If it were not for Jiang Qiling, you wouldn't be able to buy them even if he had the Xian crystals. She offered a low price, 10,000 Xian crystals for one. That was a friendly price. It would be at least 30,000 Xian crystals. Luli needed to consume 10 pellets of delicacy a day for his cultivation. In other words, he had to squander 100,000 Xian crystals a day, or 3 million Xian crystals a month. What did 3 million Xian crystals mean? Those were a few holy grade Xian artifacts, and they were calculated according to the friendship price of the Linglong elixir. If they were calculated according to the market price, it would cost tens of millions of Xian crystals a month. Luli was only at the fate wheel realm. In the future, He would need more pellets, and Xian crystals would be consumed like running water. Without the support of some forces, it would take Lu Li years to reach the middle stage of the Fate-Will realm. How did Jiang Qiling cultivate so fast? How did Lu Ranhuang become the most talented genius of the Central Plains in the past 100,000 years? That was because they had two royal families backing them, and they had endless resources. Lu Li came to the Northern Desert for resources. If it were not for the Emperor of the Northern Desert, how could he afford the pellets of delicacy? Also, he needed to cultivate his soul pond. Soul crystals were being consumed like water. The genius was built on countless mystical materials. Without mystical materials, no matter how talented a genius was, he would be useless. If Jiang Qiling didn't give him mystical materials and he had to get them himself, he would be killed sooner or later with such a bad temper. Lu Li didn't have much concept of Xian crystals. Anyways, they were the best for cultivation. As far as he was concerned, power was everything. It was easy to get Xian crystals when he was powerful. At the very worst, he could just kill and loot or wipe out a big family. The Northern Desert was peaceful. Life was peaceful. He would cultivate when he had nothing to do. When there was a tornado, he would go in to study profound meanings. Sometimes he would sit on the deck, enjoying the lake breeze, missing Lu Ling, Lu Renhuang, and his mother, and Bai Qiushue. But he didn't dare to go see Bai Qiushue just yet. What if she was still angry? Another 2 months passed. Mingyu came again with 3 pieces of news, none of which was good. Many people were sent into the ice abyss, but none came out. All of them had made their jade talismans of life, but all of them had their jade talismans of life broken without exception. They were all dead. All dead? More than 100 people were sent down? Lu Li's face was clouded. According to Lu Ling's estimation, Lu Renhuang was alive and well. He should be in the ice abyss. How come all the people he sent down died? There were only 2 possibilities. First, they died before they reached the bottom of the ice abyss. Second, they didn't find Lu Renhuang when they reached the bottom of the ice abyss and were killed. If they were to encounter Lu Renhuang, he would definitely protect them. Lu Renhuang would ask Lu Li and learn that Lu Li had become an emperor at the Northern Desert. Maybe Lu Renhuang would contact Lu Li and figure out a way to get out together. Now that everyone was dead, Lu Li didn't know what to do. He wasn't so stupid as to go down himself or send Mingyu down. What about the second piece of news? Lu Li sighed. He had to wait. He would send human sovereign realm warriors down after he conquered the deserted world. Mingyu said bitterly, I heard from the Pavilion of Delicacy that they have checked all the powerful warriors of the Great Land and only found 3 that learned holy light, profound meaning. 1 died 5 years ago, 1 was a nun from the Palace of Immortals' Inquiries, and the other one was one of the arhats of the Great Buddhist Temple. But that arhat of the Great Buddhist Temple has been meditating for 100 years and never left. The nun from the Palace of Immortals' Inquiries is dying of old age. She hasn't left the Palace of Immortals' Inquiries for 50 years. The Pavilion of Delicacy has sent people to 2 places to confirm that they didn't kidnap Lady Ling. A glint of coldness rose in Lu Li's eyes. He said coldly, Is there a mistake? Or is it that the Palace of Immortals' Inquiries and the Great Buddhist Temple are hiding this on purpose? Or are there other powerful warriors that have learned holy light, profound meaning that they haven't found? Mingyu shook his head and said, There is no mistake. Jiang Hong came in person. He said that Lady Jiang has asked about this, and the Hall of Intelligence has investigated several times. They asked the Palace of Immortals' Inquiries and the Great Buddhist Temple in person. They also confirmed through other means that the 2 haven't left recently. As for whether there are other powerful warriors that have learned holy light, profound meaning, I don't know. Lu Li smashed the table with his fist and shouted, Find out. We'll find out ourselves. I don't care how many Xian crystals we have to spend. To Lu Li, Lu Ling was more important than his own life. Powerful warriors that had learned holy light, profound meaning was the only clue. Lu Li could not accept this fact. Therefore, he didn't want to rely on the Pavilion of Delicacy. He wanted to find out on his own. He didn't feel comfortable owing Jiang Qiling a favor. Mingyu thought about it, and said, "There is a way. We can go to the sanctuary and offer a huge reward. Maybe we can find some clues soon." Sanctuary? Chapter 421. The sanctuary was not a force, but a chamber of commerce, similar to the heaven-punishing auction house of the Dew family. The background of the sanctuary was one of the 12 royal families, the most powerful royal family in the past 10,000 years, the Samsara Palace. The sanctuary did all kinds of business, and they could buy anything they wanted. As long as they had enough Xian crystals, the sanctuary could even wipe out a 7th-rank family. Killing human sovereign realm warriors would not be difficult for the sanctuary. Samsara Palace? Luli felt uneasy. The Samsara Palace once participated in the operation to wipe out the Cyan Phoenix race and the Mammoth race. What if the Samsara Palace found out about the Northern Desert? Would they find out about Yicha and the others? The most powerful of the 12 royal families, a family of the 7th rank that could be wiped out easily. How powerful was the Samsara Palace? Luli cannot imagine. He asked, "Will they find out about us if we go and issue a mission?" Of course not. Mingyu knew this very well. He explained, "The sanctuary values its credibility. It has always been the most powerful chamber of commerce in the world, and there has never been a problem with its credibility. Also, it is not the sanctuary that is going to issue a reward. It is going to be announced. Only those who know about it will accept the mission. The sanctuary is not going to do it for us." "Oh, that's good." Luli was relieved. He said, "Then go and issue a mission. Put out a portrait of my sister. Tell them that she was taken away by a warrior that had learned holy light, profound meaning. Anyone who finds my sister or this powerful warrior will be rewarded handsomely." Okay. Mingyu made a mental note. He had a portrait of Lu Ling. All he had to do was to offer some Xian crystals to a branch of the sanctuary. Luli sighed. He looked awful. He had thought that he could find Lu Ling easily with the Pavilion of Delicacy. But this was not the case. After a pause, he pulled himself together and asked, "What about the other news? Is it bad news as well?" "Yes." Mingyu was not as tactful as Yuhuashan. He nodded and said, "Jiang Hong told me that the Song family was destroyed." "Song family? The Song family from the Palace of Heaven's Roars?" Luli asked in confusion. Mingyu nodded, which confused him even more. Luli asked, "The Song family is our enemy. It is a good thing that they were destroyed. Why are you so upset?" "Alas," Mingyu shook his head and sighed. "The Song family was destroyed by the Palace of Blue Lions. Song family patriarch and 3 patriarchs at the peak of the noble lord realm escaped." Jiang Hong said, "The Pavilion of Delicacy found traces of the 4 at the northern Central Plains. But the 4 went into hiding when they realized they were being followed." "What?" Luli's expressions changed, and his mind was weighed down. When he and Mo Yi killed several noble Lord Realm warriors of the Song family at the Mountain City, they had completely offended the Song family. When he returned to the Lu family, the 8th elder expressed that he would seek justice for him. He didn't care about what happened after that. He didn't expect the Palace of Blue Lions to really send troops to destroy the Song clan. Why did they have to let the Song clan's patriarch escape? Luli wanted to curse the people of the Palace of Blue Lions for being useless. The clan leader of the Song clan was a Renhuang. The Song family was originally in the northeastern part of the Central Prefecture, so why did they run to the northern part of the Central Prefecture? It was obvious that they were here for him. The Song clan's patriarch couldn't take revenge on the Lu clan, so he was prepared to take revenge on him. The family leader of the Song family must have known that he was expelled from the Lu family and that he had returned to the northern desert. Therefore, he had come all the way to the north of the Central Plains to assassinate him and avenge himself. Wait, suddenly, Luli had a bad feeling. Was there some kind of conspiracy? Was it Lu Finghua, Lu Swan, and Luni's plan? Otherwise, why would the Palace of Blue Lions, a 7th-rank force with the approval of the Lu family, let the Song clan's patriarch go to destroy a 6th-rank family? If the Palace of Blue Lions were so useless, they wouldn't be qualified to be a 7th-rank force. Also, the fact that Lu Li and Lu Feishue were expelled from the Lu family was only known by the Liu family. The Liu family was sealed, and only the other 11 royal families had the right to know. How did the Song clan patriarch get the information when the Song family was destroyed? How did he know that Liu Li was at the northern desert? Liu Li smelled a conspiracy. But Liu Zhangtan didn't know about this. Otherwise, he wouldn't have let Liu Li go back to the northern desert. It might be Liu Fenghua or Liu Xuan's doing. Big trouble. The more Liu Li thought about it, the more troubled he was. It wouldn't be a problem if there were only 3 warriors of the noble lord realm. But there was one at the human sovereign realm. The difference in realms was huge. Human sovereign realm warriors had force field. In force field, they were invincible. No matter how many noble lord realm warriors came, they would be courting death. There was a teleportation formation between the central plains and the northern desert. Liu Li could have someone control the teleportation formation or even seal off the one at the Ling Empress City. But the Song family warriors could cross the sea. They wouldn't take the teleportation formation. The sea was vast, and the territory was vast. Liu Li had asked Jiang Qiling to seal off the north and let nobody come to the northern desert. But how could the Pavilion of Delicacy stop the human sovereign realm warriors from sneaking into the northern desert? The more Liu Li thought about it, the worse he became. The situation he had worked so hard to build would be ruined with the arrival of the Song family warriors. He could not fight back, and he had to wait for his doom. What to do? Liu Li forced himself to calm down and think of a way out. Soon, he had a clear idea. The only way was to find the Song family warriors. As long as he could find them, he could ask Jiang Qiling to send 2 patriarchs from the Pavilion of Delicacy to destroy the Song family. He could not let the Song family patriarch enter the northern desert. His life would be in danger, and so would everyone related to him. Let's go. Liu Li could not sit still any longer. He shouted, "Let's go back to the Ling Empress City and then to the Central Plains. I want to find Jiang Qiling." He didn't want to owe Jiang Qiling anything, but he had been pushed into a corner. If Jiang Qiling didn't help him, he, by Xiuxiu, Ming Yu, and the others would all die. Yicha didn't care at all. He would do whatever Liu Li said. Usually, the patriarchs of the Cyan Phoenix race would not be exposed to the public. This was Liu Li's request. Yicha understood that it would not be good for the 2 races if the Cyan Phoenix race was exposed too much. The iron-armored ship flew toward the Heaven Prison City. At the Heaven Prison City, Liu Li asked about the Bai family. Bai Qiuxue and Bai Xiaoshuang were not at the Bai Emperor Mountain. They had gone to the Ling Empress City. Du Zhang sent someone to say that he wanted to have a drink with Liu Li. Liu Li was in no mood to waste time with Du Zhang. He said that he would come back later to apologize, and then he teleported to the Ling Empress City in a hurry. "Greetings, Your Majesty." As soon as they arrived at the Ling Empress City, everyone in the city knelt down. Liu Li waved his hand to let them rise, and then flew into the imperial palace. Liu Li didn't waste any time after he found Madame Yin. He asked Madame Yin to send someone to the coast to patrol secretly and report to him as soon as there were unfamiliar powerful warriors sneaking in. Unfamiliar powerful warriors? Madame Yin frowned, seeing that Liu Li was so upset. She asked carefully, "Warriors from the Central Plains? Are they here to seek revenge?" "Yes." Liu Li didn't want to keep this a secret. He nodded and said, "If you see unfamiliar powerful warriors sneaking in, go to your small worlds and hide. I will go to the Pavilion of Delicacy in person and ask their powerful warriors to help." "Okay." Madame Yin nodded. Liu Li left in a hurry with Ming Yu and teleported to the Cloud City. Madame Yin looked at Liu Li's back. Her pretty face was clouded. Powerful warriors that could make Liu Li so nervous? Could they be at the human sovereign realm? Chapter 422. At the Cloud City, Liu Li and Ming Yu appeared in the teleportation formation. All the warriors of the Palace of Peaceful Heavens knew them. A team leader took the lead and saluted them. Liu Li nodded and then walked to the branch of the Chamber of Commerce of Delicacy. Jiang Hua, the branch master, came out in a hurry to welcome them in. If it were only Ming Yu, Jiang Hua wouldn't have come out to greet them. Liu Li's identity was different. After tea was served, Jianghua asked. "Young Master Lu, what can I do for you?" Jianghua used the word order to show his respect to Lu Li. Lu Li cut to the chase and said, "I want to see your Lady Qi right now." Lady Qi? Jianghua was in a dilemma. He said with a frown, "Lady Qi has gone back to the City of Delicacy. I don't have the authority to contact her. How about I ask Patriarch Hong for instructions?" And ask Patriarch Hong to ask Lady Qi? Who knew how long it would take to ask for instructions? Lu Li thought about it and said, "No. Take me to the City of Delicacy. I will go to Jiang Hong and see your Lady Qi in person." Okay. Jianghua didn't dare to disobey Lu Li. If Lu Li really was in a hurry and Jiang Qiling blamed him, he would lose his position as the branch master. Jianghua gave some instructions and then teleported Lu Li away in person. The City of Delicacy was a bit far away. They had to teleport more than a dozen times before they arrived at a huge city. It was almost dusk. The setting sun in the west was like blood, covering the entire city in a yellow and red glow. The towering ancient city looked quite magnificent at the moment. Jianghua showed Lu Li and Jiang Qiling to a luxurious tavern, a property of the Jiang family. Jianghua left after they were settled in a separate yard. He said he would invite Jiang Hong over soon. Lu Li and Jiang Qiling had a simple meal. But after the time for 3 incense sticks to burn, Jiang Hong came. He was embarrassed to hear that Lu Li wanted to see Jiang Qiling. Lady Qi has been trying to reach the Noble Lord realm since she came back last time. But she failed and she was badly injured. She is recuperating at the Island of Delicacy. I don't have the authority to see her. Lu Li's expressions turned awful after he heard Jiang Hong's explanation. He asked with concern, "Is Lady Qi all right? There won't be any side effects, right?" "That's fine." Jiang Hong shook his head and said, "Lady Qi is in too much of a hurry. She tried to reach the Noble Lord realm before she stabilized her realm. She was hurt when she failed. The Pavilion Master has used a divine herb. Miss Qi will have no problem in her cultivation in the future. She needs to rest now. The Pavilion Master has ordered that no one is to disturb her." Lu Li and Mingyu looked at each other, feeling anxious. The Song family patriarch could sneak into the northern desert at any time. By then, there would be bloodshed and the empire of godly prowess would fall apart. Lu Li stared at Jiang Hong and asked, "Is there no other way?" Seeing that Lu Li was in a hurry, Jiang Hong thought about it and said, "Yes. We can't enter Miss Qi's pavilion of Advent Immortals, but we can make Miss Qi summon us. Come, follow me to Linglong Island." Jiang Hong knew very well how important Lu Li was to Jiang Qiling. He knew her personality even better. If Jiang Qiling were to lose her mind, the entire Jiang family would be turned upside down. Jiang Hong took Lu Li to the north and entered a magnificent yard. There were many buildings and castles in the yard, pavilions and terraces. Lu Li and Mingyu were confused. After an hour, there was a huge lake in front of them. Jiang Hong explained, "This is the Lake of Delicacy. There is an island of delicacy in the middle of the lake. Only disciples of the Jiang family have the right to live there." "Oh, I see." Lu Li nodded. "There is a mystic armor mountain in the mystic armor city where disciples of the Lu family lived. But there was an island of delicacy in the City of Delicacy where disciples of the Jiang family lived. Did the 12 royal families like to show off their nobility and uniqueness like this?" Jiang Hong didn't fly across the lake directly. Instead, he took them to a dock and boarded a boat. There are many inhibition formations in the lake. Going into the water or flying will trigger them. Usually, if someone dares to trespass on the Island of Delicacy, he or she will die. Jiang Hong explained. The boat was fast, and someone was steering it. Jiang Hong looked back and said, "Drive the boat to the foot of the cliff of Advent." Jiang Hong was a patriarch of the Jiang family. Even though his rank was not high, he was still a patriarch. The person controlling the warship immediately adjusted the direction of the ship and steered it to the left. Lu Li and Mingyu were confused. Jiang Hong explained with a smile. "Lady Qi likes to daydream on the cliff of Advent when she has nothing to do. It will be up to your luck to see her." Lu Li walked to the deck and gazed into the distance. The boat was fast. In the time for only 3 incense sticks to burn, a huge island appeared in their sight. The sun had set. There was only a strand of blood-red glow in the sky to the west. The entire island of delicacy became hazy, as if it were a dream or a fantasy. Closer, closer. Lu Li and the others saw a cliff. It was not high, only about 600 feet, but it was very steep. Reefs were everywhere at the bottom of the cliff. Waves splashed against the reefs, and the cliff, splashing water everywhere. Jiang Qiling. Lu Li saw a person on the cliff, a girl in a red dress. She was sitting on the cliff, floating in the air with her bare feet. The wind was strong. Her red dress was fluttering in the wind. Every now and then, the dress would roll up, revealing her calves. She didn't comb her hair today. It was just hanging on the back of her head, and it was dancing in the wind as well. Jiang Qiling gazed into the distance. She had no idea that a boat was flying towards her. Her eyes were blank, as if her soul had been taken away. Jiang Qiling's lips were red, like flames. Her skin was as fair as by Qiuxue and by Xiaoshuang. Therefore, her red lips were eye-catching, flirtatious, and sexy. She was holding a goblet of bloody rose in one hand. Under the glow of the sunset, her beauty was breathtaking. Lu Li didn't say anything. He looked at the girl on the cliff, feeling sorry for her. He felt this girl was the only one left in the world. She was so lonely, as if she had been abandoned by the world. Jiang Hong wanted to say something, but Lu Li waved his hand. He just stood there, looking at Jiang Qiling from a distance of hundreds of feet. Jiang Qiling had no idea that someone was here. She just sat there in a daze, feeling sad. As time went on, it was getting darker. Jiang Qiling was shrouded in the darkness. She didn't move. She just sat there in the darkness, becoming one with it. Lu Li couldn't wait any longer. He cleared his throat and said, "Lady Qi, don't you think it's boring to drink alone? Do you want me to go to the Lake of Delicacy with you?" Buzzing, Jiang Qiling's eyes lit up, glistening like fireflies in the night sky. She looked down and saw a man in a cyan robe standing on the boat. She put on a bright smile. Her teeth were so white that they were eye-catching. Whoosh! Jiang Qiling slapped on the cliff wall and flew down to the boat like a fire phoenix. But 2 people were faster than her. They came down from the sky like sharp swords. Their killing intent enveloped Lu Li and the others. "They're my friends. Piss off." Jiang Qiling glared at them. She was filled with killing intent, like a goddess of death. The 2 of them stopped in midair and went back to the cliff wall. Jiang Qiling came down and stood next to Lu Li. Her empty eyes were now filled with a glow of life. Her foxy eyes were like crescent moons, and her face was covered with a sweet smile. She seemed to have come back to life. "Sorry." Chapter 423. "Lu Li, how come you are here? Do you miss me after not seeing me for a while?" Jiang Qiling tilted her head and asked Lu Li, not caring that Jiang Hong and Mingyu were here. "Yes." Lu Li felt sorry for Jiang Qiling when he saw how lonely she was. He patted her hair out of instinct and said, "I heard that you failed to reach the noble lord realm and you were injured. I am here to see you. I am relieved to see that you are so lively and you can drink." Lu Li patted her hair subconsciously as if she was his sister. But the smile on Jiang Qiling's face froze, and she froze. Then, she didn't move away. Her foxy eyes became more curved, and she smiled again. She twitched her pretty nose and said, "I am too impatient and careless. When I am healed, I will try again. I will reach the noble lord realm for sure." "Take it easy," Lu Li said with a light smile. "Cultivation is like eating. You will be stuffed if you eat too much. You must eat bit by bit. You're still young. As long as you work hard, you will stand at the peak of the Central Plains." Jiang Qiling became more energetic and excited after Lu Li came. She stuck her tongue out and said, "Come, let's go to the pavilion of fairies with me. Let's have a drink." Jiang Hong stopped her and said, "Lady, that is your boudoir. You cannot bring any man in. If the family patriarch knows, Jiang Hong sighed and said it was troublesome because he found out that Jiang Qiling had fallen in love with Lu Li. If Lu Li were not exiled from the Lu family, this might be a happy ending. But Lu Li was abandoned by the Lu family. If he would be with Jiang Qiling's father would be furious. Jiang family patriarch only had one daughter. Either she didn't marry Lu Li, or she would marry a disciple of one of the 12 royal families, one of the most famous young masters of the family. Lu Li was an abandoned son. Marrying Lu Li would not only make Jiang Qiling a laughingstock, but also upset Lu Zhengtan. It would also arouse Lu Zhengtan's dissatisfaction. At that time, the good relationship between the Lu family and the Jiang family would be destroyed. It was fine for Jiang Qiling to see Lu Li since they were just friends. But if she brought Lu Li to her boudoir, the Jiang family patriarch would hear about it. By then, Jiang Qiling would be fine, but Lu Li would be doomed. Lu Li understood the seriousness of the matter. He nodded and said, "The lake of delicacy is nice. Jiang Hong, go and get some food and wine. I will go to the lake of delicacy with your lady." Jiang Qiling nodded since Lu Li said so. Jiang Hong hurriedly steered the boat towards the island. He disembarked the boat and made arrangements. Soon, a maid came up with wine and dishes. Jiang Hong got another boat and invited Ming Yu to it. Lu Li and Jiang Qiling could take another boat by themselves. He knew his miss too well. If he was an eyesore at the side, she might just kick him down. The boat moved slowly. The cabin was filled with food and wine. The windows on both sides were open, and one could see the rippling lake water outside. The lake breeze blew gently, bringing with it a trace of coolness, making people feel very comfortable. The food was good, and the wine was bloody rose. Lu Li felt like he was on fire after he drank it, but he liked the taste after a while. A man should ride the most handsome horse, drink the strongest wine, sleep with the most beautiful women, and kill the most detestable people. This was the way to live a happy life. Only in this way could he not waste his trip to this world. Jiang Qiling said nothing. She poured some wine for Lu Li and stared at him with a smile on her face. It was as if Lu Li was a beauty that she could never get tired of. "I will be honest with you." Lu Li didn't have time to fool around with Jiang Qiling. He said with embarrassment, "I am here to ask you to save my life. Alas, I am a man, and I am ashamed to ask you, a lady, for help." "Oh, Lu Li, it is rare for you to ask someone for help." Jiang Qiling was surprised. Lu Li was a man of integrity. He wouldn't ask for help unless it was something he could overcome. Lu Li touched his nose and said, "A human sovereign realm warrior has his eyes on me. If he is at the noble lord realm, I can try. But if it is a human sovereign realm warrior, there is nothing I can do." "Human sovereign realm warrior?" Jiang Qiling rolled her eyes. Her eyes were like ripples in a lake, very beautiful. She didn't know what was going on outside, but she asked after some guesses, "Is it the Lu family? The Song family? The Palace of Gods?" Jiang Qiling was smart enough to know that Lu Li only offended the Lu family, the Song family, and the Palace of Gods. Families at the northern central plains wouldn't make trouble for Lu Li. Lu Li gave her a thumbs up. Then he explained the situation and added, "Lady Qi, I have nobody to help me now. I have to ask you to help me find the Song family patriarch. If you can't do it, then help me stall for half a year. After half a year, even if the Song family patriarch comes to the northern desert, I will be able to fight back. The clan patriarch and the patriarchs of the mammoth race should be here soon. By then, Lu Li could prepare to attack the deserted world. If everything went well, he could use the human sovereign realm warrior of the Titan race. By then, even if the Song family patriarch came to the northern desert, Lu Li would be able to fight back." "Oh," Jiang Qiling was surprised. In half a year, Lu Li could stop a warrior of the human sovereign realm? She looked at Lu Li with doubt, but didn't ask. After a moment of silence, she said, "Lu Li, I cannot promise that I will help you kill the Song family patriarch. I can only say that I will try my best." Lu Li felt touched. He knew that Jiang Qiling didn't have much power despite her identity and status. The power was in the hands of the family patriarch, Jiang Wuwa and the patriarchs. How could Jiang Qiling ask Jiang Wuwa for help? Luli looked at Jiang Qiling seriously and said, Lady Qi, I owe you my life. If you need my help in the future, that's enough. Jiang Qiling interrupted him. She rolled her eyes and said, You are a man. Why are you so wishy-washy? I don't need you if I want to do something. Luli touched his nose. Jiang Qiling was right. There were many powerful warriors in the Jiang family. With Jiang Qiling's identity and status, she could mobilize many powerful warriors if she wanted to do something. Why would she need Lu Li's help? Lady Qi, here's to you. Lu Li picked up his goblet, clinked it with Jiang Qiling's, and drank up. Jiang Qiling glared at him again and said, Lady Qi? Lu Li, if you're going to treat me like an outsider, I will not help you. Call me Qiling or Qi'er or Linger. Lu Li was speechless. Looking into Jiang Qiling's passionate eyes, he felt embarrassed and shy. He forced a smile and said, Okay, I will call you Qiling from now on. Jiang Qiling smiled with satisfaction. She picked up her goblet and drank up slowly. After drinking, her flame-like lips became even redder, and her face also became slightly red. Under the illumination of the candlelight, her entire body exuded endless charm. Luli wanted to leave now that his business was done. He stood up and said, Qiling, I have something to do at the northern desert. I have to go now. I will come back and drink with you some other day. You're leaving so soon? There was a glint of disappointment in her eyes. She bit her lips, looked up, and said, Didn't you just say that you would do anything for me if I asked you to? I have something I need you to do now. Luli pouted. A woman's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the sea. She just said that she could do anything for him, and now she changed her mind. But what could he do now that Jiang Qiling had said so? He forced himself to say, Okay, tell me. If I can do it, I will do it. Of course you can. Chapter 424. The night was hazy, the candlelight was swaying, the breeze was intoxicating, and the beauty was as pretty as jade. If it was someone else, they would definitely agree. She didn't even have to say it. They would want to kneel down and lick her feet. Luli was not that kind of person. Instead, he hated it. He was influenced by Lu Ling since he was a kid. To him, a woman should know how to be reserved and love herself. If a woman didn't love herself, how could a man love her? Men like sluts, but they only liked her body, not her as a person. Luli thought Jiang Qiling had changed a lot. He still saw her as a friend. He felt sorry for her when he saw her sitting on the cliff all by herself. But at this moment, he was angry. He hated her for not fighting for him, hated her for lowering herself. Luli pulled a long face. He looked at her coldly and said, Lady Qi, if you are still like this, please forgive me. You are no longer my friend. I will not ask for your help anymore. I will leave now. It had been some time since Lu Li became the emperor of the northern desert. He had changed his position and temperament. He had the power of an emperor. He was so angry that even Jiang Qiling was frightened. Seeing that Lu Li was about to fly out, she panicked. Tears ran down her cheeks. She grabbed Lu Li's robe, looked up, and said with grievance, What are you thinking? I'm not asking you to do anything. I just want you to spend the night with me. Just sit on the side. Lu Li, don't go. I am afraid. I am afraid of the night. I am really afraid. I can't sleep every night. Every night, I feel like he has turned into a ghost and is coming for my life, telling me that he died a wrong death. I'm so scared. Lu Li was taken aback. He looked back at the tearful face, the wronged expression, the begging eyes. His heart softened. Seeing that Lu Li was calming down, Jiang Qiling continued to beg. Really, Lu Li, we don't have to do anything. I just want to have a good sleep. Can you stay with me? I have never had a good sleep for so many years. Can you go after I fall asleep? I am really scared. Lu Li's heart melted. He had wronged Jiang Qiling. Seeing the fear in her eyes, he felt sorry for her again. Jiang Qiling had covered herself with thorns, but she was actually very fragile, more fragile than most girls. As far as Lu Li was concerned, she was no longer a young lady of the Jiang family, standing high above the masses. She was no longer a talented genius or a wanton slut. She was just a poor little girl, a little girl who was afraid of the dark night. All right. Luli squatted down and sat on the deck. He patted her back and said, I will stay here tonight. I will stay with you. Go to sleep. Jiang Qiling put her arms around Lu Li's waist and leaned on his leg. She looked at Lu Li with tears in her eyes, and Lu Li looked back at her quietly. They didn't say anything, but there was no romantic atmosphere in the boat. There was only peace and quiet. Lu Li patted her back and hair. Soon, she fell asleep. She slept peacefully and sweetly. There were still some tear stains on her face, but there was a smile on her face. Lu Li didn't leave. He sat with his legs crossed and his eyes closed the whole night. Jiang Qiling woke up 3 times in the middle of the night. Every time, she would be sweating and her eyes were filled with fear. But she would sleep again after she saw Lu Li. Lu Li's heart ached more and more. He began to hate the Jiang family patriarch. How cruel could her father be? How could he force his own daughter into such a state? Lu Li was ready to leave after a night of cultivation. When Jiang Qiling woke up, she would have to pester him for a whole day. There were many things to deal with at the northern desert. He had to go back and make arrangements. He put Jiang Qiling on the bed, took out a blanket from his interspatial ring, and covered her up gently. Then, he walked out quietly after he looked at Jiang Qiling, who was sleeping peacefully. When Lu Li walked out of the cabin, Jiang Qiling, who had been sleeping with her eyes closed, suddenly opened her eyes. She looked at Lu Li's back, put on a sweet smile, and went back to sleep. Outside the cabin, Lu Li stood on the deck and waved to Jiang Hong, who was in the distance. Jiang Hong drove another boat over. Lu Li boarded and asked Jiang Hong to take him away. Young Master Lu, last night, after the ship sailed away, Jiang Hong asked Lu Li with a cold face. Lu Li waved his hand and said, We didn't do anything. We just drank all night. Oh, Jiang Hong was relieved. Last night, many powerful psychic powers checked into the boat. If Lu Li had done something, he would be dead at the Lake of Delicacy. When the boat arrived at the dock, Jiang Hong walked out with Lu Li and the others. Walking along the pier for a few steps, Jiang Hong suddenly saw a person fishing by the lake in front of him. After seeing this person, Jiang Hong's expression changed. That person glanced at him indifferently, and Jiang Hong immediately shut up. Lu Li and Ming Yu looked over. It was an elegant middle-aged man. He was handsome and his eyes were profound, as if they could not be read. More importantly, this man's qi and energy were powerful. Lu Li and Ming, you could not tell his realm. He was at the human sovereign realm. Jiang Hong, ask this young man to come and sit with me. You wait outside. The middle-aged man said lightly. Jiang Hong hurriedly bowed. Lu Li looked at Ming Yu, waved his hand after some thoughts. Ming Yu left with Jiang Hong. Young man, come and sit. The middle-aged man waved his hand and pointed to a stone stool next to him. Lu Li walked over after some thoughts. He didn't salute and just sat down quietly. He didn't look at the middle-aged man. Instead, he looked at the lake in the distance. The middle-aged man didn't say anything. He just stared at the fishing rod. After a while, a fish bit. He pulled the rod and a fat carp was hooked. He took the fish off the hook and threw it back into the lake. Then he looked at Lu Li with a smile and said, Young man, why don't you say anything? You don't salute me. You are brave. Ha. Lu Li smiled lightly. He looked at the middle-aged man in a neither servile nor overbearing manner and said, I have always been brave. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been exiled from the Lu family. Master, you don't look like a man who cares about formalities. Why do you still want me to bow to you? Oh, the middle-aged man smiled and asked, How did you know who I am? Have you seen my portrait before? No. Lu Li shook his head and said, Apart from the master of the Pavilion of Delicacy, who else would care about Lady Qi so much? Master, you are so young. You are not old enough to fish. You are sitting here early in the morning. Of course, you are here to fish for me. You are smart. The middle-aged man nodded. Then he looked at the boat in the distance and said calmly, But smart people usually die early. If smart people want to live longer, they should learn to hide their weaknesses instead of using petty tricks. You're not a good match for Linger. Don't try to use her to get ahead. You are a disciple of the Lu family. The Pavilion of Delicacy cannot let go of you. Ha. Lu Li laughed. He looked at the middle-aged man with ridicule and said, "Last night, I was wondering what kind of person the master of the Pavilion of Delicacy was. Today, I am disappointed. I don't know if he could be a successful master or not. But I'm sure of one thing. As a father, you are a failure." Eh? The master of the Pavilion of Delicacy looked at Lu Li. Her eyes were as sharp as knives. A surge of qi and energy pressed down on Lu Li. Lu Li's bones were creaking at once. At this moment, Lu Li had no doubt that he would be smashed into a pile of minced meat soon if the qi and energy continued to press down on him. P.S. That's the 5th chapter. I have been doing this for several days. I have paid back the chapters 1-0. Of course, old Monster Zhou will continue to erupt. I will definitely do what I promised you. Chapter 425. Lu Li was not afraid at all. Instead, he stared at Jiang Hua, the master of the Pavilion of Delicacy, coldly, like a lion with its mane raised. He knew very well that Jiang Hua wouldn't dare to kill him, at least not in public. That would damage his reputation as the master of the Pavilion of Delicacy. As he had expected, soon, Jiang Hua's momentum weakened. Lu Li's bones were cracking, and he was about to spit out some blood from his throat. But he forced himself not to. He still stared at Jiang Hua coldly. After the time for more than a dozen breaths, Jiang Hua's breaths weakened. He said indifferently, "Son of Lu Renhuang, you really have the temperament of a tiger. But punk, how long have you lived? How dare you teach me a lesson?" Lu Li forced himself to swallow the blood. He took a deep breath and answered back, "I don't have the guts to teach you a lesson. But every child is like a blank piece of paper. The growth of a child has much to do with his or her parents. Does it have nothing to do with you that Jiang Qiling is like this? Last night, Jiang Qiling told me that she hasn't had a good sleep for years. Every night, she would be afraid that someone would come after her. Even when I was with her last night, she woke up from her nightmares 3 times. Even I feel sorry for her. As a father, don't you feel guilty or sorry for her? At the Gargoyle Mountain, her grandpa passed away. She had nothing to live for. When she was about to commit suicide, I gave her hope. I gave her something to live for. It is funny. Her only hope now is for you to kneel in front of his grave so that her grandpa can be worshipped by the people. The reason why she cultivated so desperately was for these 2 goals. Pavilion Master, is this what you want by forcing your daughter into this state?" Lu Li didn't show any mercy. He didn't want to save Jiang Hua any face. Last night, seeing how Jiang Qiling was like, Lu Li hated Jiang Hua. Now that he knew Jiang Hua wouldn't kill him, he wouldn't show any mercy. Jiang Hua's expressions were strange. He wasn't angry that a junior like Lu Li was scolding him. Instead, he had mixed feelings. He stared at the boat in the distance. After a while, he sighed and said, "You are right. I am qualified as a master. But as a father, I have failed. After Ling was born, her mother passed away. I focused on developing the Pavilion of Delicacy and neglected to discipline her. This is all my fault." But Jiang Hua turned to Lu Li and said, "No matter what, you cannot be with Ling. Your identity is too sensitive. I don't want Ling to be hurt again. So, you better be sensible and don't make things difficult for me. Otherwise, you know what will happen." "You are wrong again." Lu Li shook his head and sighed. "I have no interest in your daughter. If I did, why would I wait until now? We've been together since we were at the Heavenly Ghost Mountain. We're just ordinary friends. Don't think that I want to be the son-in-law of the Jiang family. I betrayed the Lu family. Jiang Qiling once invited me to join the Pavilion of Delicacy, but I refused. Later on, she said that she would help me to set up a domain in the northern part of the Central Plains, but I refused. My grandpa is Lu Zhenyang, and my father is Lu Renhuang. Do you think that I, Lu Li, am a man who sponges off women? I don't need to rely on anyone. I can build a new Lu family by myself." Ha ha ha. Jiang Hua laughed. He was amused by Lu Li's words. He nodded and said, Good, good. You are ambitious. You do resemble Lu Renhuang. Now that you have said so, I will not ask further. But if I ever find out that you and Ling have crossed the border, then don't blame me for being cruel. Take care." With that said, Jiangwu vanished on the spot. Luli was shocked. He must be at the Earth Immortal realm if he could vanish into thin air. The master of the Pavilion of Delicacy must be at least at the Earth Immortal realm. How old was Jiangwu? But Luli heard that Jiangwu used to be obsessed with martial arts and married late. He must be old. It was hard to tell a warrior's age from his appearance. If a warrior was at a high realm when he was young, then it would be hard for him to age. After all, he could live for so long. Luli stood by the lake for a while and then left. Jiang Hong and Ming Yu were waiting outside. They were relieved to see that Luli was fine. Jiang Hong didn't dare to stay with Luli any longer. He took Luli to the city at once. Luli teleported away because he was worried about the northern desert. Luli teleported back to the northern desert after he arrived at the Cloud City. Luli hurried to the Imperial Palace and saw Madame Yin and Yu Huashan. Yu Huashan was called over by Madame Yin. They were going to work together. Yu Huashan asked about the situation as Luli came back. Luli explained that the Pavilion of Delicacy would help. But the northern Central Plains was a vast place with a sea of people. The Pavilion of Delicacy might not be able to find them. What was more, it was not Jiangwu who gave the order. The Pavilion of Delicacy would not do their best. Luli had thought it through on his way back. He ordered many scouts to go to the sea at the south. As long as there was no danger, there would be some buffer time when the Song family patriarch came. Luli asked Madame Yin and Yu Huashan to handle the matter. He went to see Lu Feishua first, but he didn't say much. He just told her that the Pavilion of Delicacy would get involved and not to worry. After saying goodbye to Lu Feishua, Luli arrived at a side chamber and shouted, "Clan leader Yi." A gentle breeze came and Yi Cha appeared. Luli asked, "How long will it take for the mammoth race to make the breakthrough?" "Half a month." Yi Cha thought about it and said, "Half a year is almost up. They should be able to make the breakthrough soon." "Young master, should I send someone back to check?" "Okay." Luli nodded and said, "Once they make the breakthrough, tell them to come out at once. Send them to the small world of green dwarfs secretly. Do not let anyone know." "Yes." Yi Cha knew the severity of the situation. The Cyan Phoenix race looked like humans. They could disguise themselves and others wouldn't be able to tell. But the mammoth race were giants. Once they were exposed, they would not be able to keep the secret. By then, the 6 forces, including the Samsara Palace, would come to the northern desert, and they would all die. Yi Cha left, and Luli was ready to cultivate. He hadn't made much progress on the speed profound meaning yet. He didn't dare to leave the Ling Emperor city, so he had to reach the middle stage of the Fatewell realm first. Rustle, rustle, rustle. From outside came a sound of footsteps. A slim girl came in. The cinnabar up between her eyebrows was eye-catching. It was by Chioshua. Luli felt embarrassed. He pretended to be in deep thoughts with his eyebrows knitted. Bai Chioshua walked over, sat next to Luli, and asked, "Is it troublesome?" Bai Chioshua went to ask Madame Yin after she learned that Luli was back. But Madame Yin said nothing. Such a big matter must be kept secret or it would cause panic. Luli looked up and said with a grin, "It's okay. I am here. The sky won't fall." Bai Chioshua forced a smile. She grabbed Luli's arm and said softly, "I don't care if the sky is falling or not. I only care about you because you are our sky." For the first time, Bai Chioshua said some sweet words. Luli was touched, even though he was blushing and shy. Chapter 426. They looked into each other's eyes, never to be apart again. This time, Bai Chioshua had expressed her feelings boldly. As a matter of fact, back at the Heaven Martial Kingdom, when Bai Chioshua risked everything to save Luli, she already had some vague feelings for him. In the deserted world, when Luli brought all the powerful warriors of the northern desert to save her, she fell in love with him. What more could she ask for in this lifetime when she had a lover like him? Bai Chioshua had thought things through during the 2 months she had been back at the Ling Emperor city. Therefore, she had the courage to express her feelings now. Luli smiled. He felt his heart was full and his fighting spirit was aroused. He was not alone now. He had so many people behind him. No matter how tough the situation was, he must get through it. He must be the pillar for Bai Qiuxue and the others. Both of them were touched. They hugged each other without knowing it. Of course, Luli didn't do anything rash this time. He just hugged Bai Qiuxue gently. They listened to each other's heartbeat and felt the strong love from each other. Sister, sister, from outside came an untimely voice. Luli's expressions changed. He jumped up at once and walked to the side chamber. He said, I will cultivate to reach the middle stage of the fate wheel realm. We will talk when I come out. Bai Qiuxue burst into laughter, looking at Lu Li, who was running away. Bai Xiaoshuang had become Lu Li's nemesis now. Bai Xiaoshuang rushed in. She looked around and said angrily, Didn't you say that Lu Li is back? Where is he? Lu Li, come out. I will kill you. I will kill you. Lu Li had rushed out of the side chamber and was ready to cultivate in the secret room. He shuddered to hear the murderous voice. He wasn't afraid that Bai Xiaoshuang would kill him. What he was afraid of was that the girl would speak her mind. What would happen to his dignity if word got out? Cultivation, cultivation. I will not come out until I reach the middle stage of the fate wheel realm. Lu Li secretly made up his mind. He had already arranged everything that needed to be done. The rest was up to luck. If he was lucky, the Pavilion of Delicacy would find the Song family patriarch and kill them. If he was unlucky, the Song family patriarch would come to the northern desert. The scouts he sent out could find the four. More importantly, he still had time because there was a vast sea between the central plains and the northern desert. By iron-armored ships, it would take at least 2 to 3 months unless the Song family patriarch came by himself at top speed. What's more, there were many powerful mystical beasts in the sea. There were also many beast sovereigns. The 4 of them might even be killed by the mystical beasts in the sea. Therefore, Lu Li still had time. At this rate, he could reach the middle stage of the Fate Wheel realm in half a month at most. By that time, the leader of the mammoth race would have already gone to the small world of the green dwarfs, and he would be able to conquer the deserted world. Do your best, and leave the rest to the heavens. Lu Li closed the door, took out pellets and soul crystals to consume. His temperament was very good, and he quickly got rid of the distracting thoughts in his mind and focused on cultivating. Under her order, the patriarchs of the intelligence division had to send out many people to search for the Song family patriarch all over the world. The patriarch of the intelligence department of the Jiang family was experienced, and he was at the human sovereign realm. He was highly respected at the Pavilion of Delicacy. But there was nothing he could do about Jiang Qiling. This young lady was schizophrenic. When she was in a good mood, she was well-behaved. But when she was mad, she could do anything. She once burned down the yard of the Hall of Patriarchs. If they didn't listen to her, she might burn down the house of the patriarch as well. It would be fine if she was just a disciple of an average family. It just so happened that Jiang Qiling was talented, and she was the only daughter of Jiang Wuwa. Who dared to offend her? As long as she didn't cross the line, they had to listen to her. Many scouts of the Pavilion of Delicacy were sent out. At the same time, the Du family, the Palace of Peaceful Heavens, and other families received Jiang Qiling's order. Jiang Hong went to deliver in person. Which family dared to offend the little devil that even patriarchs of the Jiang family dared not to offend? Or else, Jiang Qiling would burn down their yards the next second. For a moment, many people of the Central Plains and the Northern Desert were sent out to search for the Song family patriarch, Song Qi, and the other 3. Conservatively speaking, more than 1 million scouts were sent out. It was not difficult for so many people to search for 4 people, one of whom was at the human sovereign realm. In merely 8 days, the result came out. Song Qi and the other 3 were found. However, after Song Qi was found, the scouts were also discovered by Song Qi and the others. Several scouts were taken down. Song Qi interrogated them and learned that the Pavilion of Delicacy was looking for him. Song Qi and the others ran away at once. Jiang Qiling asked 2 patriarchs to hunt them down when she learned the news. They caught up with the 4 near the LV city. But the 3 noble Lord Realm warriors of the Song family fought with their lives. Song-Chi managed to escape into a perilous place at the north of the Central Plains. Not even human sovereign realm warriors dared to enter that perilous place. Patriarchs of the Zhang family would not risk their lives for Lu Li. Only some scouts were left outside the perilous place, and the patriarchs went back. Jiang Qiling knew this was the best she could do. She asked Jiang Hong to send a message to Lu Li while she was busy recovering and preparing to reach the Noble Lord realm. Even though there was a difference of one realm between the Eternal Realm and the Noble Lord realm, their abilities were worlds apart. The Xianwu realm, Spirit Sea realm, and Soul Pond realm were all about building the foundation. The Fate Wheel realm and the Eternal realm were about to change their destinies. But the Noble Lord realm was about to go against nature. The first three realms were children. The Fate Wheel realm and the Eternal realm were teenagers. The Noble Lord realm was a young man. If she could reach the human sovereign realm, she would be in the prime of her life. Whether a warrior could reach the Noble Lord realm or not was crucial. Once Jiang Qiling reached the Noble Lord realm, her family would train her at all costs. She could reach the Noble Lord realm at such a young age, and she could reach the human sovereign realm or the earth immortal realm. Jiang Qiling understood this, so she cultivated hard. She wanted to go to the northern desert to look for Lu Li, but she resisted the urge. She planned to reach the Noble Lord realm first. Lu Li must have a lot of things to deal with. When the news of Song-Chi reached the northern desert, Lu Li and the others were a bit disappointed, but they were relieved. Song-Chi might not be able to come out after he went in. Even if he did, there were so many scouts outside, and he would be found out. At least, the northern desert was safe for the time being. 20 days later, from the crater of the Earth Dragon Island, three huge figures shot out from the crater. Yicha stood outside the volcano. Seeing the first golden giant, he grinned and said, "Mengji, you finally made the breakthrough." The three golden giants' eyes were filled with excitement. The golden giant at the front stretched his muscles and bones, making cracking sounds. He grinned and said in a muffled voice, "It has been more than 5,000 years. The mammoth race has finally seen the light of day again. Perhaps the world has forgotten about the mammoth race, right?" "Ha ha ha." Yicha laughed and said with relief, "Mengji, as long as we follow Saint Lord wholeheartedly, we will kill our way back to the Central Plains and take back our ancestral land. We will make the entire great land tremble under our feet." "Okay." Mengji nodded. Then he raised his head and shouted. He grinned and said, "Kill our way back to the Central Plains, take back our ancestral land, and restore our glory. For this goal, the mammoth race is willing to go through fire and water. Death is not to be regretted." "Okay, stop shouting." Chapter 4:27. Three warriors of the mammoth race had reached the Noble Lord realm, but Lu Li didn't leave right away. Instead, he was in closed-door cultivation. He was trying to reach the middle stage of the Fate Wheel realm. It had been more than half a year since he reached the Fate Wheel realm, and his realm was stable. He had been consuming pellets of delicacy and soul crystals, strengthening his Xian energy and soul pond. He was ready to build the second Fate Wheel now. The mystical materials were prepared, so Lu Li didn't have to worry about them. This time, the mystical materials were of the highest level. Lu Li even got 3 heaven serpent fruits. The second Fate Wheel was built in the same way as the first one. The only difference was that after the second Fate Wheel was built, it had to be integrated with the first one to form a 2-layered one. If it couldn't be integrated, the second Fate Wheel would collapse. Lu Li asked Mingyu to protect him, and nobody was allowed to get close while he started to build the Fate Wheel. He was using the secret method of the Lu family. Even though he was no longer a disciple of the Lu family, the secret method was still useful. The strength and speed of his first Fate Wheel were much stronger than regular Fate Wheels. 7 days. After 7 days, Lu Li built the second Fate Wheel as expected. He was talented, and the son of Lu Renwang couldn't be any worse. The mystical materials used were of the highest level, and so was the secret method. It was not a problem for him to build the second Fate Wheel. The problem was the integration with the first fate wheel. When the second fate wheel was built, Luli noticed something was wrong. The second fate wheel was 7-colored, but the first fate wheel was silver, which looked out of place. Luli was worried that the two fate wheels would reject each other and the integration would fail. His worry was unnecessary. The integration of the two fate wheels was successful. However, after the fusion, he was a little surprised. After the fusion, the second fate wheel turned silver. The silver dragon pattern moved again and appeared on the second fate wheel. This was strange. Unfortunately, Luli didn't have the courage to ask anyone. He had to study it himself. He spent a day in the secret room, but didn't find anything. Let's go out and have a try. Luli decided to try. He put away the two-layered fate wheel and walked out. Mingyu was sitting at the door with his legs crossed. Seeing Luli, Mingyu's eyes glowed, and he said, "Young master, congratulations." What's there to congratulate? Luli didn't care. He had consumed so many top-level pellets and mystical materials. If he still couldn't reach the middle stage of the fate wheel realm, then he wouldn't need to cultivate in the future. It would be a waste of mystical materials and Xian crystals. I'm going to try the new fate wheel, Luli said, and Mingyu followed him out of curiosity. They walked out. Luli released his fate wheel and flew into it. Then, he controlled the fate wheel to fly into the sky in a blur. So fast. Even though Mingyu was prepared for this, he was still taken aback. Luli's speed had increased by several times. Based on Mingyu's estimation, Luli's speed was comparable to a warrior at the middle stage of the Eternal Realm. He was at the middle stage of the Fate Wheel Realm, but he was as fast as the middle stage of the Eternal Realm. Even though Luli had learned the speed profound meaning, he didn't know how to enhance his abilities and speed. The only explanation was that Luli's Fate Wheel was different from others. Looking at Luli's two-layered Fate Wheel, which was glowing in silver light, Mingyu understood that it was bigger than other warriors. Naturally, Luli's Fate Wheel was different from that of others. Others didn't have silver Fate Wheels, and they weren't as big. As far as Mingyu could tell, Luli must have learned some secret skills of the Lu family. As one of the 12 royal families, it was normal for the Lu family to have something special. Mingyu could understand it, but others couldn't. People were not allowed to fly at the Ling Emperor City. Luli's flying attracted many people's attention. When people saw that it was Luli, they burst into an uproar. Seeing how fast Luli was, the uproar became louder. Good. I am much faster. My fate wheel is strange, but it is not bad. Luli glided in the air in strange arcs. He was excited. Speed was also a part of his strength. If he could use the speed ultimacy in it, his speed would be many times faster. Luli, you coward. You finally dare to come out? Get down here. Luli was having fun flying in the air, and he even made many difficult moves. However, he was startled by a girl's shout. He trembled and almost fell from the sky. Whoosh! Luli's expressions changed when he saw a person flying up with a huge machete in her hand. Pushing his speed to the limit, he flew down like a wisp of smoke, rushing into a side hall and disappearing. Many people stared at by Xiaoshuang, who was fuming in midair. They were eager for gossip. An emperor who could kill without batting an eyelid was forced into hiding by Xiaoshuang. Was there some secret between the two? Shuanger, get down here. Madam, Yin shouted in anger. Bai Xiaoshuang could be forgiven for fooling around, but how dare she chase after Lu Li in public? This would damage Lu Li's dignity as an emperor. The Bai family depended on Lu Li. Bai Xiaoshuang flew down, feeling wronged. But she didn't say anything to Madame Yin. She pouted and almost cried. Luckily, Bai Qiushue came out and pulled Bai Xiaoshuang away. She comforted her and whispered something to her ear. Bai Xiaoshuang finally smiled through her tears. Bai Qiushue sent Bai Xiaoshuang back to her palace, and then went to Lu Li's palace. She knocked on the door and heard Lu Li's alarmed voice. Who is it? It's me. Shuanger is not here. Bai Qiushue giggled and said. Lu Li opened the door, relieved. He dragged Bai Qiushue in and closed the door in a flash. Seeing Luli like this, Bai Qiushua bent over from laughter. She put on a mischievous smile. Well, how dare you laugh at me? I will punish you. Luli flew into a rage. He carried Bai Qiushua in his arms and walked towards the big bed inside. Bai Qiushua was in a panic. She struggled, but Luli threw her onto the bed. Like a tiger pouncing on a sheep, she was pinned down on the bed. Bai Qiushua was even more panicked. She looked at Luli and begged, Okay, Emperor, I am sorry. Please forgive me this time. Luli's heart was beating faster and his breath shortened. He could feel the softness and smoothness of her body, smell her orchid-like breath, and look at her shy and beautiful face. He looked at Bai Qiushua and said, You have made a mistake. How can I not punish you? I want you to stay still and let me kiss you 3 times. With that said, Luli put his mouth on Bai Qiushua's tender and red lips in a flash. He pried open her mouth in a domineering way and sucked the bejeweled juice out of her mouth like crazy. Feeling Luli's dominance and love, as well as his strong masculinity, Bai Qiushua was lost as well. Her mind went blank, but soon she came back to her senses. She pushed Luli away and said in panic, No, Shuang is nearby. Luli's eyes became clear and his face was as bitter as a gourd. He was lost in thought for a long time. Then he said in frustration, Qiushua, I have just reached the middle stage of the fate wheel realm. I will go and cultivate now. When Bai Xiaoshuang comes, tell her I am not here, wait. Seeing that Luli was about to run, Bai Qiushua remembered her purpose here. She said, I just told Shuang that she has been eyeing a heaven-grade emerald jade armor for a long time. My aunt wouldn't buy it for her. If you can give it to her, I will let bygones be bygones. Yes. Chapter 428. Luli didn't go to the area of demons right away after he reached the middle stage of the fate wheel realm. He needed to cultivate and stabilize his realm. He planned to stay in the Ling Empress City for 10 days. Firstly, he wanted to accompany Lu Feishue. Secondly, he wanted to improve his relationship with Autumn Snow. Thirdly, he wanted to stabilize his realm. He asked Madame Yin to buy a piece of jade armor for Bai Xiaoshuang at the auction house. Finally, Bai Xiaoshuang let it go. However, his plan to spend time alone with Bai Qiushua to improve their relationship didn't work out. This was because Bai Xiaoshuang kept popping up and interrupting their date. More importantly, Luli didn't dare to touch Bai Qiushua during the date because she would sense it as soon as he did. Luli could only keep his distance from her. They expressed their love for each other through their eyes. Luli had thought about taking Bai Xiaoshuang into his harem as well. It was normal for an emperor of the northern desert to have several concubines. However, he was deeply influenced by Lu Ling. If he didn't have feelings for her, he wouldn't force her to marry him. It was just like how Zi Lian often looked at him with passionate eyes, but he could only ignore her. Right now, there was only Autumn Snow in his heart. There was no room for other women. He only felt sorry for Jiang Qiling. He saw her as a mischievous sister. He didn't have any other thoughts about her. It was the same for Bai Xiaoshuang. He only treated Bai Xiaoshuang as his sister-in-law. Even though he had seen her pee before, he didn't think too much about it. His heart was now occupied by Autumn Snow alone. Lu Ling once told him that if he loved someone, he must be faithful. If he could not give the girl happiness, then he should not mess with her. After staying at the Ling Empress City for a couple of days, Lu Li was ready to set off. There was no news from the Pavilion of Delicacy, but Lu Li believed Song Qi should still be in a dangerous place. That being said, Lu Li had to be on guard. He must conquer the deserted world as soon as possible. He didn't bring too many people with him. He only planned to bring Yi Cha and the others. Ming Yu and Yu Huashan weren't with him. To conquer the deserted world, noble Lord Realm warriors would not do much good. If they could subdue the human sovereign realm warriors of the Titan race, they could kill the human sovereign realm warriors of the stellar race. Ming Yu and the others didn't need to do anything else. The Titan race, Yi Cha, Meng Ji, and the others were enough. Of course, he also brought along another person, Autumn Snow. It wasn't that he wanted to be alone with Autumn Snow, but that Autumn Snow was of great use to him. The hag race needed by Qiuxiue as their leader. Her enchantment was powerful, and she could charm warriors of the noble lord realm. She was a powerful force. Lu Li didn't tell anyone about this, not even Madame Yin. He only said that he was going to take Bai Qiuxiue with him for some business. He asked Lu Feixue, Madame Yin, and Yu Huaxin to keep an eye on the northern desert, especially on the waters in the south. Lu Feixue and Madame Yin were happy. They thought Lu Li was taking Bai Qiuxiue on a trip. Madame Yin could tell the ambiguous relationship between Lu Li and Bai Qiuxiue. She was secretly delighted. Lu Li left with Bai Qiuxiue in the middle of the night. At the Heaven Prison City, Lu Li went to pay a visit to Duzhong. Yicha was already waiting for him. They took the iron-armored ship to the area of demons. After they arrived at the area of demons, Lu Li didn't stop. He took Yicha and Bai Qiuxiue into the small world of green dwarfs. Bai Qiuxiue didn't ask any questions along the way. Lu Li must have his reasons for what he was doing. But when she arrived at the small world with Lu Li, her eyes were wide open. At the foot of a hill stood 3 giants. They were all more than 30 feet tall with golden skin. They had no hair on their heads. They only wore a leather skirt to cover their bottoms. Their arms were bigger than people's bodies. They were covered in muscles, and their fists were bigger than people's heads. Bai Qiuxiue had no doubt that if one of their fists landed on her, she would be smashed into a pulp in an instant. Even though the 3 giants were standing at the foot of the hill, they were as tall as the hill. The pressure was so strong that Bai Qiuxiue felt suffocated. They were 3 gods. Bang, bang, the 3 golden giants walked over in strides, emitting violent qi and energy. Bai Qiuxiue trembled. A cinnabar lit up between her eyebrows. She was about to release the enchantment. Plop! The 3 golden giants dropped to their knees 30 feet in front of Lu Li and then prostrated themselves. The one at the front shouted, Meng Ji and 2 patriarchs greet Saint Lord. What? Bai Qiuxiue stared at Lu Li in shock. Lu Li smiled and patted her back to comfort her. Then he said to Meng Ji and the other patriarchs, Get up. Congratulations on reaching the noble lord realm. Meng Ji didn't get up. Instead, he bowed again and said, Thank you, Saint Lord. Without your mystical materials, we would never be able to come out. Bai Qiuxiue blinked. Yicha only called Lu Li young master in front of others, not Saint Lord. Now, the 3 powerful golden giants called Lu Li Saint Lord. In other words, these powerful alien races all worked for Lu Li. She found Lu Li to be more and more mysterious. How could a powerful race be loyal to Lu Li? I will explain to you later. I don't mean to hide it from you. Lu Li took Bai Qiuxiue's hands. She felt a surge of warmth. She was touched that Lu Li cared about her so much. Okay, get up now. Let's go to the entrance to the deserted world. Lu Li waved his hand, released his fate wheel, and flew up with Bai Qiuxiue. The entrance to the small world of green dwarfs had been sealed off. Nobody would be able to come in. Yicha and the 4 patriarchs released their beads of life. Meng Ji and the other 2 from the mammoth race ran on, much faster than Lu Li. Lu Li could have asked Yicha and the other patriarchs to carry him. But in order to spend more time with Bai Qiuxiue, he chose to fly by himself. He was not slow. He asked the others to lead the way while he and Bai Qiuxiue followed behind. Lu Li explained, This is the mammoth race. Clan leader Yi and the others are from the Cyan Phoenix race. Have you heard of them? Cyan Phoenix race and mammoth race? Bai Qiuxiue was a quiet girl. She was well-read and knew a lot. Just now, she thought the 3 were from the Titan race. Little did she know that they were from the mammoth race. She grabbed Lu Li's hands nervously and said, They are from the ancient times. I think they were wiped out by the Central Plains thousands of years ago. Lu Li, do they serve you as their master? Yes. Lu Li nodded and said, In the future, I will bring them back to the Central Plains and take back their ancestral lands. The 2 races are loyal to me. As long as I can, I will help them. Good heavens! Bai Qiuxiue was frightened. She knew something about the Central Plains. Lu Li was going to fight against the Samsara Palace and the other 4 forces? Was Lu Li out of his mind? Don't worry, Lu Li said with confidence. I will not do anything if I am not sure. If I cannot reach the human sovereign realm in this lifetime, I will stay with you at the northern desert for the rest of my life. If I have the ability, I will go to the central plains to fight for supremacy. I will let the disciples of the Liu family see. Driving me out of the Liu family was the worst thing they ever did. Sure, Bai Qiuxiu looked at Lu Li's determined face, nodded and said, "Wherever you go, I will be with you." The man that I, Autumn Snow, like is destined to shake the entire 9 prefectures, standing proudly above the masses. Ha ha ha. Lu Li was ignited by Bai Qiuxiu's words. He laughed and said, "Let the journey to the world begin with the deserted world. The deserted world is mine." Chapter 429. 2 formations had been built at the entrance to the deserted world, and the Bai family had 3 warriors of the eternal realm guarding here. When Luli arrived, he asked Meng Ji and the others to hide nearby, while he went to the entrance with Yi Cha and Bai Qiuxiu. "Greetings, Emperor, young lady, and lords." 3 patriarchs of the Bai family were sitting at the entrance. They stood up and saluted Lu Li when they saw him. Lu Li nodded and asked them to stand up. Then he asked, "Is there anything going on in the formation?" "No, it has been quiet," a patriarch of the Bai family answered. Lu Li nodded, waved his hand, and said, "Open the formation. Send someone in and report back to me what you see." Even though it should be fine inside, Lu Li had to be careful. What if there was an ambush? They would all be killed if they went in. The formation was not complicated, and it was open soon. The patriarch of the Bai family went in without any hesitation. The mud in the puddle had been cleaned up. Lu Li could see the teleportation formation down there. He thought about it and said, "Another one." Another patriarch went in. They waited with bated breaths. After the time for 3 incense sticks to burn, the teleportation formation lit up and the 2 patriarchs came back. One of them reported, "Your Majesty, there are a bunch of females with black scales and horns on their heads. They speak a strange language, but they didn't attack us." Okay, that's enough. The hag race was still guarding the entrance, so it was safe. Lu Li waved his hand and said, "Okay, step back for 30 miles and stay there. Do not leave without my orders." Yes, the Bai family had pledged allegiance to Lu Li, not to mention that Bai Qiuxiu was here. They left in a hurry. Lu Li looked at Yi Cha. A patriarch of the Cyan Phoenix race flew over with Meng Ji and the others. "Let's go." Lu Li waved his hand. Yi Cha went in first, followed by the patriarch of the Cyan Phoenix race, and then the Mammoth race. They were worried that Lu Li would go in first. In case of danger, they could at least stall for a while. Buzzing, Lu Li took Bai Qiuxiu's hand. They felt a white glare, and then the scenery changed. The Xianqi in heaven and earth became richer. They were back at the deserted world. As soon as Lu Li came out, they looked around. There were many hags nearby, and the patriarch of the hags race was not far away. Lu Li smiled. Chi, when the Yiksha elders saw Autumn Snow, he hurriedly led the group of Yikshas to kneel down. Chi meant God in the ancient language. Autumn Snow had comprehended the heavenly enchantment of the Yiksha race. She was the god of the Yiksha race. Mengu, the patriarch of the hag race, looked at Meng Ji and the others with curiosity. Bai Qiuxiu explained to Lu Li that Mengu meant the Titan race. The elder of the Yiksha tribe asked because he saw that the Mammoth tribe and the Titan tribe were very similar. "Where is Chi Ker?" Lu Li didn't tell her about the Mammoth race. Bai Qiuxiu asked the patriarch of the hag race in the ancient language. Chikar was the name of the queen of the hag race. The elder answered quickly, saying that Chikar was in the king clan of the hag race. Chikar had ordered her to guard this place. Following which, Autumn Snow inquired about the situation in the vicinity. However, she did not reveal anything about Meng Ji and the others. She came back to report to Lu Li after learning that the yellow goblins were afraid to come closer and the area was quiet. Pheasant? How come they have such a name? Lu Li's focus was not on the information, but the name of Chikar. Bai Qiuxiu rolled her eyes and corrected him. "It's Chikar, not Pheasant. Oh, I see." Lu Li grinned and then ordered, Go to the king clan of the hag race. Let the patriarch stay here. Send some flying hags and 10,000 warriors with us. Bai Qiuxue was confused. She asked, "Why do you need an escort? It will be slow." The hag race was fast, but not as fast as Lu Li. Bai Qiuxue didn't understand Lu Li's arrangement. Lu Li smiled mysteriously and said, "Bai Qiuxue, you used to be smart. How come you are so silly now? Women in love have zero IQ. This saying is indeed true." Bai Qiuxue was angered. She glared at Lu Li, which amused him. She was so cute. Yi Cha, on the other hand, couldn't stand it anymore. He coughed and said, "Young master, we are all here. Find a place with no one else, and then you can bicker." The word bicker was euphemistic. What Yi Cha meant was that they should find a place with no one else to flirt. It would be embarrassing if they did it in front of a bunch of old guys. Lu Li blushed. Bai Qiuxue was so shy that she wanted to bury herself in the ground. Lu Li waved his hand and told Bai Qiuxue to give the order. The patriarch of the hag race mobilized 10,000 warriors to go with Lu Li to the king clan. Lu Li asked Bai Qiuxue to give the order. The 10,000 warriors split into 10 groups and rushed toward the hag race. Lu Li and the others walked slowly in the middle of the army. Bai Qiuxue finally understood what Lu Li meant. They were surrounded by the army in the middle so that they wouldn't be exposed. As long as they were not exposed, it would be easy to arrange things. The army marched on. There were no more yellow goblins here. It was a quiet journey. After several days, they entered the territory of the hag race. Lu Li and the others were led by several flying hags. The hag race didn't pay much attention to Lu Li and the others. Instead, Meng Ji and the other two caused quite a stir among the hag race. The hag race relied on the Titan race. Without the Titan race, the hag race would have been destroyed a long time ago. Therefore, to the hag race, the Titan race was their master. Usually, the Titan race would never come here. How come 3 of them came here at the same time? How could the hag race not be shocked? Not long after they entered the territory of the hag race, Qi Ke, the queen of the hag race, came with a group of flying hags. When she saw Meng Ji and the other two, her face was filled with astonishment. Then, she became very confused. She flew over and bowed to Bai Qiuxue and Lu Li. In the end, she asked about Meng Ji and the other two. Lu Li told Bai Qiuxue to keep quiet and asked Qi Ke to seal off any information about Meng Ji and the other two. They rushed toward the king clan. Lu Li asked Qi Ke to dig some caves for Meng Ji and the other two to settle down. Then, they entered a luxurious imperial palace in the forbidden area of the hag race. Lu Li sat on the throne, with Bai Qiuxue next to him. Lu Li asked Qi Ke, "Do you have a way to contact the clan leader of the Titan race? Tell him to come here." Bai Qiuxue was worried, but Lu Li insisted on her translating. She had to talk to Qi Ke. Qi Ke's eyes flickered. Then she answered. She said that she was not powerful enough to ask God of Meng for help. The best she could do was to ask a patriarch of the Titan race. If it's an elder, then so be it. Invite one over as soon as possible. Lu Li waved his hand. Qi Ke was worried. She said that the Titan race had a bad temper, and they had a bad impression of humans. It was humans that had driven the Titan race out of the Central Plains. If they asked a patriarch of the Titan race to come, a conflict might break out. I told you to do it. Cut the crap. Lu Li was angry, and so was Bai Qiuxue. She said to Qi Ke coldly. Qi Ke nodded and went to make arrangements. Chapter 430. The distance between the Titan race and the hag race was about the same as the distance between the Heaven Marshal City and the Thousand Island Lake. There was no teleportation formation in the deserted world. Therefore, even if the patriarchs of the Titan race could get here at full speed, it would take them 4 or 5 days. Lu Li and Bai Qiuxue settled down in the imperial palace of the hag race. Yi Cha and the others lived there as well. Meng Ji and the others lived in the cave. Lu Li felt bored after sitting there for a couple of hours. He wanted to walk around. Bai Qiuxue nodded with a blush and said, "That's good. I will go as well. Luli noticed that Bai Qiushue was blushing. He asked curiously, "Where are you going? How about we go together? You are more familiar with this place." "Go ahead." Bai Qiushue's cheeks were even redder. Luli understood now. Bai Qiushue wanted to go to the cave, where she was locked up to further study the enchantment. Luli thought about it and said, "Okay, go ahead. I will go with clan leader Yi." Bai Qiushue left with a blushing face. Luli was not worried about her safety. He could tell from Qi Ke and the others' attitude towards Bai Qiushue that they really worshipped her as a god. They would never hurt her. Luli and Yi Cha wandered around the forbidden area. Qi Ke asked a flying hag to go with them. There were some strange buildings in the forbidden area, such as round temples and some tall totem poles. That being said, there were many reliefs on the temples, the totem poles, and some fake mountains. Those reliefs were all depicting erotic scenes. They were all pictures of men and women of the Yiksha race having fun. They were in various positions and doing all kinds of difficult actions. What was strange was that Lu Li and Yi Cha didn't find these erotic pictures obscene. Instead, they were pleasing to the eye like works of art. Obscene, dirty, unsightly, Lu Li murmured as he walked and stopped. He stared at the reliefs and didn't miss a single one. Yi Cha rolled his eyes along the way. But the other patriarchs agreed. Hag race is obscene, dirty, and obscene. Shameless. Hag race is scum. Right, look at this. They are hanging people up. Where's the law? Where is the moral limit? Unsightly, unsightly. The few elders cursed along the way, but their gazes were like magnets, unable to move away from the relief sculpture. Walking past another relief, Lu Li saw the patriarchs were still looking at him with passion. He glanced at them and said with a grin, "Patriarchs, you are still young. Do you want to ask Qi Ke to arrange some pretty hag race girls to serve you?" Yishi's face was full of awkwardness, and the four elders immediately put on a sanctimonious expression. The great elder waved his hand in a serious manner and said, "Holy Lord, we are not people like that." Right, right. The second patriarch nodded and said, "We are just criticizing the obscene sculptures of the Yikshas. They are too outrageous." The third elder agreed and said, "There are all kinds of strange things in the world. I don't think a race as evil as the Yikshas should exist in this world anymore. I think we should completely destroy them, from their souls to their bodies." "That's right," the fourth patriarch said angrily. "I suggest that we go deeper into the study of the hag race later and see how we can destroy this race. Saint Lord, we cannot wait any longer. Please ask Qi Ke to come here and send some girls of the hag race to our room. We will use the cruelest means to deal with this race." Lu Li was speechless. Each of the four old men was more shameless than the other. They could see that the relief sculpture was very interested in the hag race, but they were speaking in such a righteous manner. Lu Li looked at Yi Shi and asked, "Clan leader Yi, what about you? Do you want to go and destroy some girls of the hag race as well?" "Second brother and the others are just a bunch of bastards. We've made a fool of ourselves in front of the Holy Lord." Yi Shi was ashamed. He shook his head and said, "I don't think so. I'm stronger than them. I don't think I can satisfy them." Plop. Lu Li blacked out and fell to the ground. Yi Shi had been acting in a serious manner. Lu Li didn't know that he was this kind of person. "Okay, Qiushue is in the cave. I will go and find her." Lu Li waved his hand and said, "Go and find Qi Ke. Just don't leave the forbidden area." Yi Shi and the others knew that Bai Qiushue had gone into the cave, so they left to find Qi Ke. Lu Li blacked out again when he saw Yi. She was blushing and beaming with joy. He had misjudged these old men. There were two flying hags guarding outside the cave. They knew who Lu Li was. Since Qi Ke was so respectful to him, they wouldn't stop Lu Li. The cave was spacious with some oil lamps in it. The yellow glow added to the atmosphere in the cave. Along the way, Lu Li saw the relief sculptures of men and women having fun on the walls, which were more erotic and sinister. About 300 feet in, Lu Li saw a hall with two rooms on the left and right side of the hall, and another room in front of him. One of the flying hags pointed to the room and mumbled something. Lu Li knew Bai Qiushue was in there. He pushed the door open and walked in. The room was not big. The walls were neat, and there was a bed. The four walls were engraved with reliefs of the outside world. However, the reliefs here were different from those outside, because the reliefs here were actually colored, and the carvings were vivid and lifelike, as if they were real people. By Chioshua was standing on a wall. Her face was red, and so was her neck. But her eyes were closed. She was trying to sense something. Luli walked to the side. He took a few looks and cursed again. His breaths were short. Maybe it was because his beautiful lover was standing next to him that he was aroused. He turned around and looked at Bai Chioshua, her beautiful face and graceful body. She was clearly an incomparably pure and holy woman, yet she was standing in such a lewd room. It gave rise to an extremely contradictory feeling, but this feeling was very stimulating. Outside, she was a saint. At home, she was a lady. In bed, she was a prostitute. This was the ideal partner for many men. Bai Chioshua was developing this way. Luli exclaimed to himself that he was lucky to have this girl. What more could he ask for? Unconsciously, Luli's breaths became shorter. Finally, he woke Bai Chioshua up. She was surprised. When she saw it was Luli, she was so shy that she didn't dare to show her face. Luli was mesmerized by the girl's charm. Chioshua. Luli looked at Bai Chioshua affectionately. He picked her up and walked to the bed. Luli could not hold it in any longer. He wanted to have sex with Bai Chioshua today. Their lips touched and their tongues tangled together. They could not separate. The two bodies hugged each other tightly. The ribbon slipped off. Luli ripped off Bai Chioshua's dress rudely, revealing her pink belly band. Her breasts were on the verge of bursting out. Luli let out a beast-like roar. He could not hold it in anymore. No. Bai Chioshua suddenly remembered something. Her misty eyes became clear again. She pushed Luli away and shouted, "No, not today. My period is coming." **T. Chapter 431. Luli had a comfortable life these days. He stayed with Bai Chioshua every day. Of course, they never went back to that cave again. It was as if there was some magic in that cave that could ignite their passion. Bai Chioshua wanted to give herself to Luli. After all, they were in love, and Luli was not the kind of person to abandon her. But it was not the right time. There were some scenic spots near the royal family of the hag race. It was rare for the two of them to be alone. Naturally, they would not let go of this chance. They spent all their time together, sightseeing like an immortal couple. Yicha and the others disappointed Luli. They left Bai Chioshua and stayed in the imperial palace all day. Chikur arranged more than a dozen of the most beautiful girls in the tribe for them to flirt and do immoral things all day long. On the fifth day, a scout of the hag race sent a message that the patriarch of the Titan race had entered the territory of the hag race with 5 Titans. Chikur asked someone to invite Luli back at once. Yicha and the others came out from the imperial palace as well. The 5 of them were full of righteousness. Their white beards danced in the wind as if they were immortals. That being said, they were a bit unsteady. Clearly, they had been having too much sex these days. Luli didn't mind them. He stood at the forbidden land, gazing into the distance, waiting for the patriarch of the Titan race to come. He didn't show any emotion, but he was nervous inside. It was of the utmost importance for him to take down the Titan race. If he couldn't, then the deserted world would be doomed. Bang, bang, bang. From the distance came some muffled sounds of footsteps. Following that, several flying hags came from the distance. 6 towering giants emerged from the mountains in the distance. They were fast. In one step, they had crossed a small mountain. In the time for one incense stick to burn, they had arrived at the Forbidden Land. Luli and the others finally saw the Titan race clearly. One of their doubts was solved. No wonder the hag race mistook Meng Ji and the others for the Titan race. The Titan race was similar to the Mammoth race. Their physiques were identical, both more than 30 feet tall. Their arms were thicker than human bodies, and their eyes were as big as bells, full of cruelty. The difference was that the Titan race's skin was not golden like the Mammoth race's. Instead, it was dark gold. They had a small horn on their heads. Human race. The Titan at the front stared at Luli and Bai Chioshua, who were next to Chikur. He shouted in the human language. A glint of cruelty rose in his eyes. Without any nonsense, he raised his fist and smashed at Lu Li and Bai Qiushue. Yi Cha and the others stood in front of Lu Li at once. Meng Ji came out from a cave not far away. Meng Ji shouted, "How dare you disrespect Saint Lord? Stop!" The mammoth race's body was huge, and so was their voice. The Titan race's elder swept his gaze across, and his huge arm immediately stopped in midair. His eyes were filled with astonishment. The other 5 Titans were stunned as well. Then they began to speak in a language that no one could understand. Meng Ji walked over with 2 patriarchs. They stood in front of Lu Li and glared at the Titan race patriarch. The Titan race patriarch talked to Meng Ji in some strange language. Bai Qiushue could understand the ancient language, so she translated for Lu Li. Lu Li listened for a while, but his heart was in his throat. The 2 of them were talking about the mammoth race. The Titan race elder asked if the mammoth race had been exterminated. How could someone survive? Meng Ji explained, but didn't ask about the Titan race. Bai Qiushue said the Titan race patriarch wasn't as polite to Meng Ji as she imagined. Yi Cha moved closer to Lu Li and whispered to him. Lu Li finally understood. The Titan race was the descendant of the mammoth race. Once upon a time, there was a genius of the mammoth race. However, he was violent and disliked by the big shots of the race. He lost the fight for the throne against the clan leader of that generation and was exiled. The genius left the mammoth race to cultivate on his own. He married an alien race and gave birth to the Titan race. Therefore, even though the Titan race originated from the mammoth race, they weren't on good terms. Later on, when the Titan race was attacked by humans, the mammoth race sent out reinforcements. However, because humans were too powerful, the mammoth race retreated. As a result, the Titan race was almost wiped out. The survivors left the Central Plains and fled like stray dogs. 5,000 years ago, the mammoth race and the Cyan Phoenix race were wiped out as well. The Titan race thought the mammoth race was wiped out. It was not until they saw Meng Ji today that they realized some of their race were still alive. They were surprised, so they asked about it. Even though the Titan race is the descendant of the mammoth race, they are not on good terms. It is going to be difficult to take them back, Lu Li thought to himself. Meng Ji said something else to the Titan race patriarch, which made the latter furious. The patriarch pointed at Lu Li and yelled at him in some strange language. His eyes were filled with cruelty. Lu Li was annoyed. He said, "Didn't you say you could speak human language? I don't understand your ancient language. If you want to scold me, just do it in human language." The Titan race patriarch did speak human language. He was enraged by Lu Li's words. The patriarch sneered and said, "You humans are all despicable people. You are the dirtiest creatures in the world. Clan leader Meng, you want us to surrender to him? Have you gone senile? You will drag the mammoth race into the abyss and into extinction." Meng Ji was enraged to see the Titan race patriarch slandering Lu Li. He said, "Meng Hua, Saint Lord is not a despicable person. He is the Saint Lord chosen by the ancestor god of the Cyan Phoenix race using heaven augury. He can lead us back to the Central Plains and take back our ancestral lands. I will not allow you to insult Saint Lord." What a joke. The Titan race patriarch sneered and said coldly, "Back in the old days, humans were weak, so they befriended the 10,000 races. They benefited from both sides. What happened next? The 10,000 races were at war. Humans took the chance to develop. When they became stronger, they slaughtered us. They took our ancestral lands, fought for our resources, and killed our people. I even suspect that the 3 wars were instigated by the despicable humans. Humans cannot be trusted. Clan leader Meng, do you still not understand the bloody lessons we have learned?" Lu Li and Bai Qiushue looked at each other. They were deep in thought after hearing the secrets. They didn't even doubt the words of the Titan race patriarch. They both agreed that humans were cunning and insidious. Of course, humans did not do anything wrong. They were doing it for the development and growth of the human race. Survival of the world was the way to go. As for morality and friendship, Those were bullsh asterisk T in the eyes of many important human figures. Mengji didn't know how to refute. He stared at the Titan race patriarch and said, Menghua, Saint Lord is not like that. Without him, we cannot come out. Only Saint Lord can lead us back to the Central Plains and take back our ancestral lands. Imp, Menghua said with ridicule. He is just a puny human being, and he is so weak. I can smash him into a pulp with one punch. You say he can lead you back to your ancestral lands? Are you out of your mind? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.